Connection chain consisting of 13 nodes. Nodes 4 and 5 have been rerouted, respectively, 3 and 4 times. What is going on in the Interstellar Union? What is wrong with the pricing rate today? Well, no matter, the algorithm has succeeded. Let's see here. Transmitter operating within normal parameters. Bit rate is acceptable. We are go across the board for data transmission. Greetings, wingmates. I hope that you are well, in whatever temporal situation you may find yourself in. Ah, I see that we already have some here with us. In the chat console, Rent-A-Cow, welcome to the convoy, and Ismi Davsta, welcome to the convoy, good to see you here. Oh, you like this game, Rent-A-Cow? I am looking forward to finally having a first playthrough on stream. Hello, Segfault139, welcome to the convoy. Interstellar Dogecoin network congestion. Well, sometimes the data streams on the JumpNet go through nodes where there's quite a bit of congestion, so that the bitrate is unacceptable for transmission. The way credits work is they refer to 1 kilobyte of data at a given priority at a essentially at a given priority. And if you want more data faster, you generally have to up your priority to match the congestion within a particular node. So whatever's going on there has increased the priority to be rather high for the bitrate that I want. So I've had to end up routing around it. It does increase the overall cost, as I have to use lower priority jump nodes, but more of them. However, it is worth it in the end. Alright. So, welcome everyone. Today we will be playing a game that I have long since wanted to show on this particular data stream, and that is Children of a Dead Earth, which is, at the very least from the perspective of a 21st century Terran citizen, it is a near-future hard science, or hard sci-fi, Starship simulator with incredibly accurate physics and incredibly accurate formulas for the damage, construction, and other parameters, including engine performance. Hello, Mundo. Welcome to the convoy. Great to see you here. So, it has been quite a bit of time since I've played this game, and it appears that we have a number of fans of Children of a Dead Earth here today. So I do hope that I won't embarrass you too much, but we will be starting again from the very beginning of the playthrough, so that we can actually have a proper tutorial. And I think that will assist anyone who is also not used to Children of a Dead Earth. Alright, why don't we move on to the simulation room and begin the game. Alright, wingmates. It appears that the game audio is roughly balanced where it should be. I think I will adjust it just a bit, but I rather enjoy the soundtrack to this game, as it is appropriate to what it is trying to do. There we go. Right, fantastic. It appears that we are running. There we go. You can design nuclear bombs like it's Kerbal Space Program in this game. Indeed. Let's see, let's go to the ship designer. Let's take a look at the gunship. So, you can actually design ships in this game. And this, I believe, was a modification of an existing gunship that I was doing before, a long time ago. I think it is no longer valid at this point as a design, since there were a few changes done. This is what the ships look like in Children of a Dead Earth. They are rather simplistic in their appearance, but that is not a problem, as form follows function, and these are warships. And they are not meant for aesthetics, they are meant for combat. And this in this case, this is a completely laser-equipped warship. It's got, at the very least, 5 different laser turrets, and what it appears to be like a set of railguns. Not quite sure. It appears that... Oh, 4 60mm cannons, and quite a propulsive array here of 7 engine nozzles. Ah, Komodo, welcome to the convoy. It is great to see you here. But let's take a look at something else. As you can see, the designs all look like either bullets, spheres, or perhaps other things that one may leave to their imagination. But that is simply a result of practical Starship design, as you want the least amount of surface area for the most amount of volume, while also keeping a proper profile for combat. So we will actually take a look at all of this when we begin the campaign. So why don't we do that? Okay, so, as you can see here, I actually have several of these unlocked, although I was not able to complete Vesta Overkill, and thus my campaign playthrough stalled terribly. So let's begin a distress call at Luna. So, Children of a Dead Earth, for anyone not familiar with it, is set in a near future, for our 21st century term, sci-fi setting, where a series of disasters essentially destroyed the Earth's ability to support life, and thus forced civilization to go to the stars. So let's see, is there actually info links? No, there's no proper wiki that we could read. Okay, so let's take a look here. How much Delta V did I spend? 1.4 kilometers last time. Alright. So let's go to the briefing for this mission. Distress call at Luna. Refuel a cargo freighter orbiting Luna with a ruptured fuel tank. Then rendezvous it with a space station. So this is a basic flight tutorial. Welcome to your first command, Admiral. Please pay no mind to all the talk about nepotism, or nepotism. In case you are not already aware, the USTA's recent acquisitions of contested asteroids in the belt has caused severely rising tensions, and the leaders and myself at High Command are expecting the worst. This means we will be needing all the commanders we can get in the coming months, so your complete lack of experience is not a problem. You will have several subordinate officers who will guide you through basic orbital mechanics for this mission. So as a side note, that's a pretty desperate situation if there's a command officer who needs to be guided about orbital mechanics. One of our cargo freighters, a tug carrying valuable radionuclides from Luna from the belt, has suffered a ruptured fuel tank and lost all propellant. Fortunately, it managed to inject itself into a high orbit around Luna before it lost all Delta V. The crew has patched up the hole, so it should be okay to refuel them at this point. Luna's our second greatest claim in the solar system behind Mars, so we have plenty of spacecraft and space stations in orbit to help them out. Your job is to take a methane tanker currently docked at a methane depot and rendezvous with your freighter. Refuel the cargo freighter, and then bring it back to the methane depot to complete the mission. Should be a simple task, and will prepare you for more difficult missions ahead. Again, your officers will explain every step of the way. And finally, give my regards to your mother, Madam President. Good luck! Alright, so let's do some basic recommended reading, since we are all being reintroduced to this particular simulation. Basic orbital mechanics. The higher in orbit, i.e. the further away from an orbited body the object is, the slower the object moves. Thus, to speed up, lower your orbit. To slow down, raise your orbit. This necessarily means that objects in lower orbits will move much faster than objects in higher orbits, and as a result will have more maneuvering options. At the same time, the lower and faster your orbit, the more Delta V it costs to change anything about that orbit. Orbital height is a trade-off between maneuverability, speed, and Delta V cost. The most efficient way to raise or lower an orbit is through a burn tangential to the orbital body and in line with the current velocity. This is usually done with a red thrust manipulator. It is most certainly different than Elite Dangerous. This is going to be almost turn-based, I suppose increment-based timing. Delta V. Delta V, or change in velocity, measured in meters per second, usually in kilometers per second, is a measure of impulse needed to execute orbital maneuvers. Delta V is not a rate of change. It is a measure of how much ship's velocity can change. Every time a ship executes a thruster burn, such as during a mission, an amount of Delta V is spent. Each ship has a Delta V budget, which is the total velocity that a ship can alter its current velocity. Although Delta V is a measure of propellant left, it is the same for all ships. However, how much propellant each amount of Delta V is equivalent to varies by ship. For example, for a small ship, 1 kiloton of propellant might equal 3 kilometers per second of Delta V, while for a larger ship, 1 kiloton of propellant might only mean 1 kilometers per second of Delta V. So this means essentially that Delta V is going to be our common way of measuring how much a ship can change its velocity in orbit. Let's see here. Orbital burns. When orbiting object, the 3 most relevant directions to the burn are tangential, radial, and out of plane. Tangential, red, is perpendicular to the orbited body, but still in the 2D plane of the orbit. Radial green is in the 2D orbital plane, but directly away or towards the orbited body. Out of plane blue is directly perpendicular to the orbital plane and is only useful for making orbital inclination adjustments. If where you want to go is in the same orbital plane as you, there is no need to ever use an out of plane burn. So one thing we should be aware of is of the Republic of the Free People. This is one of the factions from this particular setting. Let's see here. 1 second, please, wingmates. Okay. So, the Republic of the Free People, abbreviation RFP, ship prefix RSF. The Republic of the Free People was formed after the evacuation of Earth after the Cataclysm. Although many of the former sovereign nations of Earth attempted to coherently reform off-world, all of them dissolved in the chaos of the aftermath. The Republic was created by an amalgamation of various sovereign states, initially starting as a temporary coalition between said states, much like every other off-world coalition. The Republic itself was formed primarily by the states of Indonesia, India, the Philippines, and Pakistan. During the beginning of the Republic's formation, ideological differences between the constituent states threatened to destroy it. Such an alliance could only be held together by the Cataclysm, by the threat of extinction of the entire human race. As millions of people were evacuated from Earth during the Cataclysm, the differences eventually melted away, and the decades after would see these differences fade entirely. The primary population of the Republic was fed by the extremely low cost of the Indian and Pakistani skyhooks, launching people into low Earth orbit inside of what amounted to human-sized sardine cans. Ultimately, this method of ferrying people off-world was cheaper than any other technique by nearly 1 order of magnitude. And order of magnitude, at least in the decimal system, will imply 10 times. And a huge amount of citizens all over the world flocked to Indonesia to get a chance to escape from Earth. Now, to anyone unfamiliar with skyhooks, those are essentially orbiting platforms or orbiting structures which have one end dipped into the atmosphere and the other end of it in orbit, or essentially at a point where you could orbit. And that essentially allows you to use aircraft to latch on something or either aircraft or something similar to latch on some kind of object to one end of the skyhook. And as the skyhook is rotated, it will fling the object into the next higher orbit. So using a sequence of those, you can actually move cargo up. And one of the interesting design points of skyhooks, the Kurzgesagt video on skyhooks is really nice. Izmidavstva, feel free to link that one in the chat if you would like. I think that would be quite informative. The campaign lore is ambitious. Indeed it is. But one of the interesting ways that skyhooks can be used to essentially raise the skyhook itself without any sort of propellant use by the skyhook is to utilize the Earth's magnetic field and to push off of it. although that is significantly more difficult and involves a lot of energy. If I recall, that is one of the possible techniques to use for it. As the years went by, and the chaos of evacuating an entire species off a planet subsided, the coalitions discovered that they were far from more coherent as governing bodies than their constituent nation-states, and that they often consisted more of people from differing nation-states than of people from the original nations. As a result, the coalitions remained in place and have, more or less, over the years, as humanity has spread from low Earth orbit and Luna to the rest of the solar system. The Republic itself is headquartered on Mars and has hundreds of settlements across the asteroid belt. Other major claims include Luna and a number of moons of Uranus. Additionally, they are the faction closest to old Earth, being the de facto owner of low Earth orbit. Unlike most of the other factions, the Republic has very little influence in the outer planets, where most of the other factions have settled, constantly fighting over the resource-rich moons of the four gas giants. So this is a poor nation in some sense, as they do not have access to the raw resources of the more, I suppose, habitable and rich moons of the outer planets. Let's see here. So, what is Luna? So here is Luna's planetary data, or orbital data. Thank you, Ismi Davsta. Much appreciated. In fact, allow me to save that for my own purposes later, as I've not seen that particular video. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. There we go. The skyhooks are a very strange thing. Let's see. So we will have the methane depot right here. Oh goodness, the lighting is not very good on it. But as you can see, it is literally nothing but a command module, a structure, and methane tanks. Let's see here. We have a large methane tanker, which is entirely going to be used for delivering methane to our target craft. And again, it's a command module with some radiators, an engine, and of course, fuel tanks. Let's see here. So as you can see, it has a delta V of 21.8 kilometers per second, which means that it has an absolutely enormous amount. However, it is a tanker, so none of its mass is essentially dedicated to anything besides being propellant. So this is a very poor example of the typical delta Vs that you will end up using. However, delta V does depend on both fraction of your craft that is reaction mass, and how good the specific impulse of your engines is. Hello, Headless. Welcome to the convoy. Neat. Heavy on the lore. Reminds me of older PC game instruction books. Yes, it does a little bit. There is so much juicy detail in this particular game. Oh man, video game manuals. I wish to collect some video game big boxes sometime. Yes, those are certainly getting rarer and rarer from my understanding, from what I've seen on eBay and the like. So here's the targeted cargo freighter. This one has, look, space for cargo, but it has a much lower delta V, which right now would likely be 0. And as you can see, the weight of this entire cargo freighter is 31 kilotons, or 31,500 tons. There we go. So it's a fairly heavy craft. And if you think about the weight of something like a... Oh my goodness, I will have to actually look up very quickly what the mass of the Iowa-class battleship is. Alright, let me take a look here, because I do not want to make a mistake. I believe 30,000 tons is approximately the tonnage of an earlier dreadnought, but the Iowa would be considered I suppose, a super battleship to some extent. So let's see here. Displacement. Okay, so at full load, the Iowa class displaces 60,000 tons. So this in total has a mass of about half a Terran, or a Terran battleship from the 20th century, for reference sake. However, the actual size of it is significantly different. Alright, why don't we begin the mission? Alright, here we go.
Incoming transmission.
Greetings, Admiral. A pleasure to serve under you. Let's learn some of the camera controls first. Rotate the camera by click dragging with the right mouse button or by pressing the WASD keys. Okay. So we're using WASD because that is a little bit slower. And we can zoom in using the mouse or using our keyboard. There we go. Hand the camera by click dragging with the left mouse button or by holding shift with the WASD keys. So let's see. So we are clicking and we are dragging. And there we go. So that will be very important. We're looking at Luna right now. Roll the camera by click dragging the middle mouse button left or right or by holding shift and the QE keys. Right, so... Ah, my goodness me. Ah, yes. We're gonna have to use the keyboard controls if we really want to do that. Or did we actually have roll disabled? I think roll might be disabled for us. Yes, it might be. That's it. Let's do a little wandering around this planetary system to get used to the camera controls. Select Earth right now. You may need to rotate the camera to find it on screen first. Hello Mao, welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. We are doing some Children of a Dead Earth, which is a in-body simulated, hard science fiction, near-future spaceship combat simulator. And right now we are going to be going through the first tutorial level. It's been some time since I've had the pleasure of playing this. Alright, so we have selected Earth, and now we can take a look at it. Good. However, there is little reason to interact with the Earth right now. So let's return to Luna. Select Luna. It may create a drop-down menu when you select, since other objects are nearby. So as you can see, the reason this game is called Children of a Dead Earth is because this Earth is dead. No oceans, and nothing but dryness. So that is not somewhere you want to be. Alright, so let's select Luna again. There we go. And we recenter on it. And we can review our messages here. Wonderful. Back out when ready. There we go. The green diamond and square icons near Luna are your fleets of ships. Select the fleet indicated by the diamond shape. Right, so as you can see, we have both orbits and our fleets indicated here. Rest in peace, Earth, indeed. Earth looking pretty barren. Oh yeah, Earth Chama looking more barren than usual today. Okay, so let's select our cargo freighter. This is a cargo freighter. Notice that its delta V is 0, meaning the spacecraft can't change course at all and is stuck in its default orbit. Your mission is to refuel it. As you can see right here, 0 delta V as indicated by the droplet. So let's focus our camera onto it. Let's see, how do I get out of map view? There we go. So this is the freighter as it currently is. Nothing is happening, it's just simply floating in space as almost a derelict, although the crew on there needs rescue by being refueled since they patched up the hole. Yes, this is teaching basic orbital maneuvers and basic orbital rendezvous. However, it's not like Kerbal Space Program because the moves, you do not do a manual burn. You plot out the moves and then the ship does it for you. Hello, Mr. Jackals, and hello, TK. Welcome to the convoy. Sins of a Solar Empire, Children of a Dead Earth. Sins of a Dead Earth, Children of a Solar Empire. Yes, it does get a little bit confusing how many terms are in the titles of many games I play. Sins of the homeworld of a dead child, or something like that. I don't know what's going on. Okay. That was a little spicy. Sins of a Solar Empire, both hard science and orbital mechanics. I don't even know if this is remotely like Sins of a Solar Empire to some degree, since this is not a 4X game. This is really more of a puzzle than anything. Right, so let's check out our other fleet. So let's go back and pick our square fleet here. So let's inspect it. In this fleet, we have both a methane depot and a space station. We have both a methane depot space station and a methane tanker spacecraft. Take a look at the delta V that the tanker has. So let's see here. We have our current tanker does not have its full delta V. All right. Could use some more delta V. So let's refuel it with the methane depot. Select the methane depot. Now activate the methane depot's auto refueler. Select the entire section to do so. There we go. Note that the methane tanker's delta V is increasing as the fuel depot refuels them. As soon as you exit this view, the refueling will automatically finish, so you don't have to wait for it. Let's see. We need to do one more thing. Split the tanker out into a separate fleet, so it can rendezvous with the stranded freighter. Split out the tanker now. There we go. So splitting fleets is the bread and butter of organizing your ships. Let's make sure that we get our camera focused here. Alright, make sure you can see all of the fleets in their orbits right now. There should be a cargo freighter with a wide orbit and two smaller fleets in the same tight orbit right on top of one another. And that is exactly our situation right now. Now run the turn. Hit either the run turn button or hit enter or space. There we go. As you can see, a short amount of time has passed and all of the fleets orbited Luna. The cargo freighter orbited slower than your other fleets. This is because objects in wider orbits move slower. There's some really interesting blog posts for reading on this game's website. Indeed, there are, Rent-A-Cow. Feel free to link the website of the game, Rent-A-Cow, if you would like. Let's see here. Let's see. Alright, so. As you can see, so this isn't as important, but as you can see right behind near my portrait, there is a set of buttons for running the turn and how much time we have left to complete the mission. In this case, we have 1 month to complete the mission before the crew on board the stranded cargo freighter perishes. And we can run these turns within 1 minute, 10 minute, 1 hour, 6 hour, 1 day, and 6 day increments. So right now we're currently running 1 hour moves, but we may need to change that up depending on what's going on. Let's make the turn 6 hours long now. And I have selected that, so let's run that turn. As you can see, the inner orbiting craft orbited quite significantly, whereas the cargo freighter only went a little bit. And this is demonstrating to us the principle that the bigger an orbit, the slower the craft. You can use this to speed up or slow down time as necessary. For now, let's stick to 1 hour turns. There we go. I will say that the tutorial UI for this particular game is very good. Let's select the tanker and let's begin orbital maneuvers. So there we go. RFP, Large Methane Tanker. There we go. Start a new trajectory with this button or with the T key. This will allow you to begin changing your orbit. There we go. Notice that your green orbit has changed to a light blue line. That is your future trajectory, and you can add thruster burns to alter its path. Making sure your fleet is selected, mouse over parts of the trajectory. You will see you'll see that it looks like. Apologies, wingmates. You will see that it looks into the future, showing where things are at the point in the future. So there we go. We can move our cursor around other points in the future, and we can see that it is essentially the same as it was, because we haven't adjusted it. Alright, there we go. Select any position on the blue line trajectory. Closer points to your fleet are closer in time. Let's see here. Let's select the apoapsis here, which as the little tooltip says here, is the point furthest from the body orbited on a closed orbit. And the opposite point would be the periapsis, the point nearest to the orbited body on a closed orbit. Alright, so let's do it here. Let's select our trajectory. Alright. Notice we have effectively frozen the future look ahead to the time that your fleet will be at this point. The blue thrust handle adds out-of-plane burns. This mission is entirely two-dimensional, so there is no out-of-plane. Never use this handle for this mission. Alright. The green thrust handle adds radial burns. This means directly towards Luna, or directly away from Luna. So if we focus on our fleet, actually, that's fine. We can see that the lines really do represent which way you are thrusting. Okay, let's see here. The red thrust handle adds burns tangential to your orbited direction. It is the most efficient way to tighten or widen your orbit. Hello Daishima, welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. We are currently playing some Children of a Dead Earth, which is a hard science, near future Starship combat simulator, and right now we are simply in training on how to use our orbital maneuvers. Select the tangential red handle now and widen your trajectory until it crosses the freighter's orbit. You do not need to hold down the mouse to move it. There we go. So why don't we adjust that? There we go. Your burns appear on the left. You can clear them. You can select or clear them if you make a mistake. Let's see here. So, right here we can actually make an insertion orbit. Let's take a look here. So, one of the nice things on like Kerbal Space Program that is, I suppose, intentional, as there are issues with making this too difficult of a game to play, is that you have these little indicators here which show you at which point in the travel of your ship you will actually have an intersect potentially happen. So let's take a look, wingmates. So, if we do a burn here and we follow the cursor, we can simultaneously see where we would be on this particular orbit and where the green diamond of the tanker is. So as you can see right here, where the cursor is approaching this join icon, we are rather close. And then the game can automatically plot a course correction for us in order to join with the other tanker. So I think we would like to do is actually try this a little bit differently, because right now we are going to be doing a very hot burn in order to adjust that. Let me see here, temporal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this white dot to maneuver where we actually engage in the burn. As you can see, I'm essentially moving it more into the past and more into the future. Now if we move it more into the future, we don't get the results we want, which is an intercept without overburning. And right here, we're actually getting very close. So this is about the sweet spot where we want to burn. Here we go. At least in this particular temporal situation. Oh, there we go, actually. So we want to burn almost immediately. There we go. Oh, apologies, wingmates. Almost. There we go. So let's match the orbit. Let's see. So we can join the cargo freighter. So, if we look at the actual plotting of our trajectory, let's take a look at what our delta V budget is here. So, right here, we have a... Okay, so the first burn that we do will cost us 163 meters per second of our delta V budget. The second burn that we do will cost us 141, and that burn will take place over the course of quite a bit of this orbital duration. If we look here, we can actually see the arrows of the burn that we will be doing. And this is sort of a best fit sort of thing, and it is calculated procedurally, but it is essentially the kind of maneuvering that would be done in order to match us up. Ah, Dippy, welcome to the convoy, or would you prefer that I use your new screen name? This is like Kerbal Space Program, but it is much more violent and has nuclear weapons. Carbide, welcome to the convoy. The man who has seen many suns but no daylight. How are you doing tonight? I am quite well myself, Carbide. I am very eager to get to the combat missions in this particular simulation. How are you, Carbide? How are you? And Miwo, welcome to the convoy. You're interested. Excellent, Dippy. And to anyone who is not aware, I'm referring to Juanita Tula as Dippy, as that is a nickname for him. Yes, we will get to the nuclear combat shortly. Right, so I think our burns are actually okay, because we can actually intercept. Oh, I've done it too fast. We need to actually delete this, and now hit this button. So we can match the orbit. All right, there we go. So now our trajectory ends in a white diamond. There we go. If you match the orbit, run the turn until the trajectory completes. So let's do that. So we are currently moving. We are moving along, progressing by 1 hour chunks. So this is 1 hour. It takes quite a while to do any of this. There we go. You are in the same orbit. but you'll never get closer to the target because the two fleets in the same orbit move at identical speeds. To catch them, we will need either a wider or tighter orbit. So this is what we are trying to make catch up with the freighter. This is our methane tanker. And wingmates, to those of you not familiar with radiators, essentially the nuclear power plant that provides electrical energy for this particular craft, it of course requires, and for thrust, it requires cooling, because when it is not shut down completely, even when it is shut down completely, it will generate heat. So these radiators glow bright red in order to emit the energy that is trapped within them, since you are cycling very hot coolant from the reactor to the radiators. Oh, good, Carbide. I'm glad that you are doing quite well. Focus on the combat, pickle dude. The E-Ghost. Welcome to the convoy. Yes, we will be launching nukes in space once we complete the tutorial. Nuclear warfare! 50,000 people used to live in this city. Now it's a ghost town. But yes, so the reason the radiators glow is because in space there is no conduction or convection, which is either transferring heat by touch, as in imagine a skillet on a stovetop, convection, which is imagining in a pot of water, the hot water at the very bottom, moving through flow to the top and transferring heat that way, or I suppose atmospheric heat transfer. And instead we have to use radiation, which means that the emissivity of photons as a form of energy from the surface of a hot object is the only way that the heat leaves it. If you've ever seen a glowing red-hot piece of metal, that is essentially what is happening here. But that is our only way of losing heat, other than active cooling radiators, which is a topic for another day. Hello, Rory438. Welcome to the convoy. Cleanse your enemies with atomic hellfire. We will be doing that. Hopefully soon. So, making sure that you have your fleet selected, let's do something called orbital phasing. Start a new trajectory. So we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, it appears. Alright, so here's our cargo freighter directly ahead of us. Let's focus the camera on it. So as you can see, wingmates, one of the things about orbits, even in an n-body system, is if you're on an identical orbit, on an identical orbit, you will never be able to catch up to someone. So now we need to adjust our orbital phasing. So let's select a new trajectory. Alright, here we go. Begin trajectory. Select any point on the blue trajectory line. Points along the trajectory closer to your fleet are now nearer in time. Alright, why not do that? We'll select our trajectory. We're only going to be using the tangential red thrust handle for this. In one direction, it will tighten your orbit, speeding you up. In the other direction, it will widen your orbit, slowing you down. Drag the red handle in either direction to see how it affects your orbit. Mr. Bigglesworth. Oh, I apologize. Bigglesworth, 1899. Welcome to the convoy. Isn't that one of the big problems with laser weapons? Both getting rid of the heat from firing, and then if you're hit by it. Well, I would say that one of the biggest issues is getting rid of it, as you said correctly. And that is because most lasers have a very low efficiency of converting direct energy into actual directed energy. So if you have a reactor producing, say, 1 megawatt of power, and charging up capacitors or whatever, by whatever means that your laser is functioning by, you will potentially have very, very low efficiencies, and the vast majority of that energy will have to be dumped away from the laser's lasing core after the weapon fires. However, when something is hit by a laser, oftentimes the effects are ablative, and while you will heat something up, in essence, a laser pulse is often so fast that it causes an explosion. So whatever matter is heated up by it, it won't gently sink its heat into the body of the spacecraft. It will violently explode in a cloud of gas consisting of metal or whatever other composites have been vaporized by that instantaneous burst of energy. Muna Shedov, welcome to the convoy. I'm still mad there was no blasting pulse lasers, only heating rays. The ablative limit bug was also annoying. I don't think I was there for the ablative limit bug, but definitely the lack of pulse lasers is a bit of an issue, if I recall correctly. I do not remember if there have been any changes, but this game has not been under very active development, unfortunately. Okay, so let's adjust our tangential burn here. Okay. Every time you change your orbit, mouse over the trajectory to see how close you get to your destination. If you're still ahead after one orbit, widen it. If you're still behind after one orbit, tighten it. Tweak until you get a green join icon, then select it. Alright, well, let's tweak this correctly. So let me escape this, and let's take a look. So, so we have the methane tanker, and we need to match the cargo freighter. So the cargo freighter is faster than us, so we must tighten our orbit in order to speed it up. So there we go. Let's tighten our orbit by burning backwards, and we have done so. So as you can see, as we tighten our orbit, our intercept point draws closer to the near future. And the near future, that exploded everywhere. Let me delete that trajectory. Hello Hartley, welcome to the convoy. Okay, interesting. So it's something like a Gauss or railgun be more viable. Biggles is fine, by the way. Okay, I will do that. Biggles, fantastic. So the difference, pretty much any weapon with a hypervelocity projectile will also rip chunks off the craft. In the sense, it is practical in the sense that it produces less heat, but at the same time you do not have speed of light targeting, and at the same time you also may have difficulty targeting at longer ranges, simply because there is more ballistic spread. Although there is laser diffraction. Once a laser reaches its, I suppose, focal point, it will always diffract. No matter how much you try, there is no way to retighten a beam. It's simply one of the principles of I suppose, collimated light weapons, or even any coherent light weapon like that. The game has railguns and coil guns, as well as conventional chemical guns. Indeed, and it has missiles, but those function more like ships. Partly, out of curiosity, Spacer, how long are we running tonight? A few more hours. Can't stick around for long. I do not think I will be running very late tonight. I think perhaps only 3 hours or so of the stream at most. I have some things I must attend to, unfortunately, later on. Reminds me of my ship combat in Elite, would overheat when going full blast with the lasers. It's a Crate Mark II, which tends to run cold. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Heating is a problem in any kind of space. What about adaptive optics? I don't think those made it in. I don't remember hearing anything about them, so I do not think it is, in terms of being able to focus your optics for your lasers differently. I also wish there would be grazers or something, unless I'm missing, because it's been quite some time since I've looked at the arsenal. So Muna Shedov, I apologize if I'm saying certain inaccuracies, feel free to correct me. The backseating tag is, of course, enabled. Okay, so why don't we actually slow down our trajectory out just a bit, and not too much. The game really wants us to really play around with this, but we played enough Kerbal that we know what we're doing, to more or less. All right, tweak it till you get a green join icon. Well, we had a green join icon from the very start, so let's get to the join. There we go. Excellent. The green diamond around the green join icon indicates that your ships have confirmed a join. Run the turn till they join. So let's take a look. As you can see, here are these orange lines will represent the burns that our ship will do in order to join the crippled methane tanker. For some reason, I couldn't send messages. Oh, I'm sorry, Dippy. Is it better now? All right, let's run turn. Let me know if that, or I do hope no one else is having trouble. There aren't any grazers, only lasers of various frequencies, and unfortunately the laser tech is modeled in the game is severely out of date compared to real-life progress from what I understand. Indeed, I had that similar perception, that unfortunately one of the issues was that that there certainly have been changes to both efficiency and lasing medium developments, so many of the calculations for, I suppose, efficiency have changed. There we go. All right. Excellent. So we have joined the fleets together. So let's select our new fleet and inspect it using the F key. So as you can see, they are both together in the formation. Now, the big difference between the tanker and the freighter is one of them has cargo and one of them is pure fuel. As you can see, here we have methane tanks that are empty, and here we have one kiloton capacity cargo bays. So 1,000 tons is quite a bit of cargo, although relative to the mass of the entire craft, it's not that much. And that is essentially being the primary difference. It is what makes the delta V of these two ships so very different, in spite of very similar fuel masses. Because if we look... Oh, that is a wonderful name. The RFS Magnetic Winter. And who are we running here? I forget how to check the names outside. Oh, the RSF Forever Pulse. I love these names so much. Alright, so why don't we do some fueling? Let's fuel up the cargo tanker. So we'll use the automatic fueler, and that will refuel our cargo tanker. And let's split out the cargo freighter. So let's go back, let's zoom in again, and now we have refueled our cargo freighter, leaving the large methane tanker with only 13.7 kilometers per second of delta V, but that is more than enough. So let's split out the cargo freighter. There we go. Note the delta V of your freighter now. It should have enough to make it back to the original methane depot. More than enough. Alright, let's start a new trajectory to return back to the depot. Make sure the fleet is selected first. So let's select the correct fleet, which is our cargo freighter, and now we can begin a trajectory change. Let's see here. Rather than execute a similar set of maneuvers, let's do things a bit differently this time. There are an infinite number of ways to rendezvous with a target spacecraft in orbit. This time, we'll be using a different frame of reference. Change it with this drop-down. So wingmates, this really hurts my mind no matter how much I try to wrap myself around it. So please bear with me. Here we go. We will make the frame of reference the methane depot. So this is what, as if the methane depot is what we're traveling around, what our orbits will look like. Your trajectory will look very different. No longer a simple elliptical orbit anymore. It hasn't really changed. You're simply viewing it in reference to the destination now. And as you can see, it looks like... I don't know what this is. This is a figure 8 now. Rocket science. That's just KSP with guns. Indeed, Rory. I forget if did I say hello to you, Rory? But welcome to the convoy again. Yes, it's quite the loopity-loop, but it's all because it's referential. Let's see here. So, because the methane depot orbits on its own speed, so for example, if we look here, this is in essence what is happening. So, if we travel around, I don't even know how to explain this. This is simply difficult. That's what it is. Alright, let's continue onward. Now start with the trajectory. Everything moves except for the current frame of reference, the orbital depot, or the methane depot. This makes it easy to rendezvous with your destination because it never moves as time passes. So basically, we will have to make sure that our funky blue line actually intercepts with the methane depot. When you're ready, select a point on the trajectory. Remember, closer to the start on the trajectory is nearer in time. So this is what it would look like. So this time, instead of Luna being our reference, as we move, watch. Take a look at Luna, wingmates. So right now Luna is here, but as we move along the timeline, Luna is simply orbiting the methane depot. But really, it's the methane depot orbiting the moon. But because of the way that our reference frames are oriented, Moon is simply going around the methane depot. And the purple is what it would look like to the methane depot as we're spinning around it. Let's see here. It's a peach. Yes, yes. All this complexity just for Spacer to draw memories. Well, I see we are playing Kerbal Space Program with violence. Yes, yes. I can't wait to get to the violence. Gorian Wasanar, welcome to the convoy. All right. So let's do this, wingmates. Ah, my goodness. Let's select our trajectory and begin adjusting our tangent. And we can also adjust our radial burns. Let's see here. From this frame of reference, the path changes in a very different manner based on the sorts of burns you execute. The actual burns are the same, but the perspective is different. Try seeing how the path changes when you use the perpendicular green thrust handle. So we're doing some perpendicular thrust, As you can see, it is very significantly adjusting the way that our orbit works. So we must be very careful. Let's actually cancel this burn right now. Let's see. Using both the handles, try to make the trajectory come close enough to the methane depot that the green join icon appears. When you get to it, select the click icon to join. So this is a very, very computer-assisted sort of game, unlike Kerbal Space Program. No, it's a peach. Really orbiting the moon. There is no objective reference frame. Yeah. Everything is in reference to everything. We could technically reference to the galactic center, or the average galactic center, but that would be a pain, as we would have to account for all sorts of trajectories. That would be absolutely insane to calculate. So, if we think about what we were doing, we need to slow down. So we need to burn backwards. So let's see, we are adjusting our burn to be a little backwards, so we're slowing down. Oh my goodness, there we go. Okay, and now we need to adjust our temporal position for the burn. So now we're trying to make sure that we can move our blue line somewhere where we can hit the orbital depot. So let's adjust our radial component. Okay, so we could, no, we don't want to go too far. Let's adjust our tangential again. Let's burn a little harder. Oh, that will actually hit the moon. Oh my goodness. It is not very intuitive to use this particular reference system for me. There we go. This is absolutely horrible, but we're going to do it anyways because they want us to do it. Let's see here. Miwa, yes, I also enjoy the OST. It's incredibly simple, but I definitely think it really fits the theme. Okay, so using this horribly convoluted pathway, we have finally plotted in a joinable approach to the methane depot. So we have plotted the intercept, and this perspective is giving me conniptions. So let's return to the default frame of reference, which would be Luna. So as you can see, what we're doing here is we are burning hard backwards and this way, and we are essentially slamming across this path and doing almost a brachistochrone burn, and then doing an insertion into orbit here using a very expensive series of burns. Let's take a look at our delta V. We are going to be burning almost 2 kilometers per second of delta V. This is horrible, but it demonstrates that I don't really like that particular frame of reference. Very wacky loop-de-loops. Let's see. Well, the burn is at an abstract rate that is safe for the cargo, so we will not have soup, I think, Dippy and Izmi Dabsta. So why don't we do our turn? So here we are about to have the hard burn. We burned. We are swinging way too close to the moon, and now we are about to join. And there we go. Mission accomplished. You've got affirmative grasp of orbital spaceflight to start doing serious missions now. So our record is 1.8 kilometers per second, and that was done using a much better frame of reference. I really don't like some of the frames of reference, even though they do actually help, depending on what you're doing. Pressing X hard right now. Delicious soup cargo. Cargo freighters don't have much acceleration anyway, not like combat ships with several Gs. Yes. They have a very low relative thrust, and thus a low acceleration to their overall mass. So let's continue onward to the next mission. 1 second, wingmates. Allow me to hydrate myself very quickly. Here we go. Ah, very, very nice. Ah, the E-Ghost. So, fast is a relative term. Because most of these sort of hard science near future ships do not actually burn all the time, since they have such limited delta V, since they have such limited or such low specific impulse, they will be doing transfer orbits, generally speaking. So if you're doing transfer orbits, you will essentially arrive at a destination the same way that any ship will, as long as you have enough thrust to, I suppose, make the maneuvers that you need. But that is of course only if you cannot pull a constant burn operation. What I do in my career is I burn at around 20 gravities of acceleration, generally speaking. And so that allows me to do a brachistochrone trajectory to my destination. And at around the halfway point, I tend to flip around and slow down. Oh good, Ismi Davsta. I'm glad that you're getting some rest. Thank you for being with the convoy for as long as you could. I hope that you have some good dreams. Alright, so here is our next mission. So this one will actually include fleet combat, wingmates. Here we go. For combat ships, I like to have at least 10 kilometers per second of delta V and 1 G of acceleration, but I haven't played in years. Same issue here, Muna Shadav. It's been quite a bit of time, but those do seem like distinctly adequate statistics. As long as you have enough budget in terms of money and mass, you can do that. Right, false flag. Summary. Intercept and destroy an enemy spacecraft around Ganymede using overwhelming firepower. It is time for semicircular formations, Attenborough. Welcome to the convoy. Let's see here. First of all, let me congratulate you on getting through your first mission. Just in time too, because we've got your first combat mission for you. Don't be concerned. The firepower that we will provide you with that will vastly outmatch the enemies, and your tactical officer will similarly provide help from time to time. A few days ago, a small combat vessel belonging to the United Sol Trade Alliance, the USTA, allegedly went rogue around Ganymede and attacked one of our cargo freighters. The USTA have disavowed any support for such an act, but the rest of us at the Republic High Command disbelieve such a claim. In all likelihood, this is yet another provocation ordered directly from the USTA headquarters itself. We're going to be spinning this story as firmly placing blame on the USTA. But that's our concern. Your only concern is to eliminate this rogue craft. Ganymede is jointly controlled by us, the USTA, and nearly every other faction in the entire solar system. We have a warship in orbit around Ganymede as well. Take it and tear the enemy craft to pieces. Its weapons vastly outrange the enemy's weapons, so combat encounters should be a foregone conclusion. Simply make the orbital intercept to enter combat with the enemy ship, and your crew should handle the rest. Your opponent for this mission is one USF Captain Jake Charon, a USF captain with a known history of poorly made decisions and rash aggression. He is best known for playing a minor role in the USTA's takeover of Enceladus as the designated civilian craft disabler. So it seems like we're dealing with essentially a brigand, and we will take care of them as required. A cup is just a semicircle in 3 dimensions. Now you're all firing information in 3D. Indeed, Ringo. Welcome to the convoy. Let's see here. For me, it's the loose cloud formation. Ah yes, loose cloud is essentially what anyone ends up using. Let's see here. So, let's take a look at our recommended reading here. Apsis. Any elliptical body has 2 apses. The apoapsis, which is the point on the orbit furthest from the orbited body, and the periapsis, which is the nearest point on the orbital body. Circular orbits have no such apses, because all points on the body are equidistant from the orbited body. All points on the orbit. Assuming an elliptical orbit with apses, the velocity at the periapsis is the highest, and the velocity at the apoapsis is the lowest, as the orbital speed is directly related to the distance to the orbital body. The significant velocity differences between the 2 apses is often unexpected and not necessarily intuitive, since in the highly elliptical orbits, the orbiter will zoom through the periapsis and spend very long time at the apoapsis. A good mnemonic to learn apsis is think apo as similar to apart, so the apoapsis is the further apart point from the ellipse, while the periapsis is the closest point of the ellipse. Orbit phasing. Orbit phasing is a technique that allows you to intercept with a target when you share the same orbit as the target, but are in different position along the orbit. Sharing an orbit with a target means you will never catch up to the target because your orbital periods are identical. Contrary to intuition, you cannot simply accelerate towards your target if they are ahead of you in orbit, nor can you simply decelerate if they are behind you to reach your target. Accelerating towards your target will widen your orbit and put you in a higher, slower orbit than your target, while decelerating will tighten your orbit, putting you in a slower, faster orbit. In either case, you will end up even further away from your target. This was discovered early on in spaceflight by NASA in the mid-20th century. To actually intercept your target, in this way, you can use orbital phasing. Orbital phasing involves either accelerating or decelerating in a direction tangential to your current velocity. This will cause your orbit to widen or shrink, both of which reduce your orbital period. Widening increases your orbital period, wingmates. I think there was a proofreading error. Additionally, you will either reach the exact same point as when you burned. Timed correctly, you can perfectly intercept any co-orbiting target with a single tangential burn. Though if you want to match velocities at the intercept, you will need a final burn as well. The actual result of orbit phasing is opposite what intuition would indicate. To reach the target in front of you, you need to decelerate, since this will bring you closer to the gravitational source, ultimately speeding you up. To reach a target behind you, you will need to accelerate, since this will bring you further from the gravitational source, slowing you down. Some warnings about orbital phasing. If the orbit is elliptical, orbital phasing will not work, except at the periapsis, point closest to the orbital center. Second, if the orbital perturbation is large, orbit phasing may fail or may require additional correction burns, to stay on track. Apologize, a bit of a desync there. Orbital perturbation. Orbital perturbation of an orbit is all the forces other than gravity experienced from the primary gravitational body. Some examples include celestial body oblateness, radiation pressure, atmospheric drag, and the gravitational force from other nearby celestial bodies. Many of these effects are marginal and can be usually ignored. However, gravitational forces from other celestial bodies can, and in some cases, be huge. For example, an object orbiting Io, the moon of Jupiter, will experience significant gravitational force from Jupiter. This will cause the orbit around Io to not be perfectly circular or elliptical, and in some cases, Jupiter's gravity will cause the orbit to decay. Over time, the object may be pulled completely out of Io's orbit. Yo, what if this game was a NASA training tutorial? It just might be. Just might be. If you've ever seen the film, The Last Starfighter, where an alien civilization placed a video game cabinet with a difficult 3D Starfighter game into points all across, I suppose, was it multiple planets or just on Earth? I think Earth was not intended to be a target, and it selected pilots using that. Whoever scored the highest score, or beat, I believe, a high score, ended up being not abducted, but offered a position. And thank you, TK, for the love for the stream, for the streamer and the chat and the lurkers. Greatly appreciated. However, as a result, most spacecraft perform station keeping most of the time, which keeps orbits perfectly circular or elliptical. Starting a trajectory will stop station keeping, however, and this is why trajectories may diverge heavily from the original orbital path. This divergence may cause many orbital techniques to fail, such as orbit phasing or Hoffman transfers. So basically, this is a warning that because this is not like Kerbal Space Program, which uses patched conics as a model, which is a much simpler system, this actually uses an n-body problem simulation, which means that we actually will be pulled by other things. So normally we will burn fuel in order to keep a perfectly normal orbit, and this is not what we want to be doing as it burns fuel. So why don't we move on here? Let's see. Let's take a look at what we are fighting around. We're fighting around Ganymede. Let's see here, which is orbiting Jupiter. And we will be using a patrol ship here. So let's take a look at the patrol ship statistics. It has a length of 80 meters, a diameter of 15 meters, and it has, let's see here, a delta V of 3.6 kilometers per second, which is far less than one would often want. Let's see, so the the acceleration, let's see here, is oh my goodness, have I forgotten? So I believe that is 308 milligravities. So it can burn for 12 minutes. So essentially, think about it this way, wingmates. The engines in this particular setting can only run at full power for 12 minutes. That's it. After that, you have no more ability to change your orbit. So our armament is 3 60mm conventional cannons and 3 13 megawatt 11mm railguns. So we have quite a bit of ballistic power, and we have 6 centimeters of reinforced carbon-carbon armor. So across the primary hull of the craft, there is a 6 centimeter, 60 millimeter thick layer of a carbon material. And following that is a layer of nickel phosphorus microlattice. And all of these armors have different characteristics against different sorts of damage. Let's see here. So if you look at it, here we have the primary reactor and drive radiator, which is glowing red. And here we have the crew compartment radiator. I'm burning to kill in space. Yes, we will be doing that shortly. So the reason you have a crew radiator is because it is much easier to... So let's just say that this particular radiator is very, very hot. It's many hundreds of degrees. Imagine if you're trying to mix a coolant loop, which is only a little hotter than human body temperature or something like that. You definitely don't want to mix the two streams together, because one of them will overwhelm the other and, I suppose, overheat it. The coolant coming back from this radiator is still incredibly hot. It is cooler, but it is still very, very hot. And you do not want to send that really hot, atomically heated coolant to the crew compartment. So that's why you have two different kinds of radiators, or more. It is easier for you to typically do this sort of thing than it is to have some kind of refrigeration system to transfer heat from one heat level to another. So the enemy will be using a laser skiff, and this is their craft. It is longer, but as you can see, it's a little bit different. So it has a laser decoy decoy launcher, which is used to prevent missiles from locking on. Let's see here. It has 8 60mm cannons, so it has more ballistic armament than we do. And it has a number of 13 megawatt lasers. However, we will be using railguns, so that will likely outrange those lasers, because lasers do have an issue with range. Lasers are not necessarily the longest range thing out there, simply due to diffraction. It completely depends on your power, the mirror that you're using, and a number of other characteristics. And it has what is likely a little bit weaker armor against lasers. It has 2 centimeters of carbon-carbon, which is, I believe, if I recall correctly, an anti-laser armor, and it has 5 millimeters of aluminum, which is nothing. 5 millimeters will be ripped apart. I think they may be trying to have a Whipple shield, but that's not going to help. Let's see, so this ship weighs 1.5 kilotons, so it's very, very small. 1,500 tons. Whereas our craft actually weighs even less than that. So this is the 60mm cannon, and as you can see, we can actually take a look at the accuracy for each of these weapon specifics. Yes, it does look like a dragonfly a bit, Egg. Welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. So as you can see, every single mount has statistics. We can see the spread of the gun, the muzzle velocity, range estimates for target cross-sectional areas. Essentially, if your weapon is spraying the ammunition in such a large cone that it is very unlikely to hit anything, you are out of range. And that, of course, depends on what you're trying to hit. If you're trying to hit something small, you'd have to be at 2 kilometers. Whereas if you're trying to hit something absolutely enormous, you could probably hit it at around 11 kilometers. And this is completely dependent on the spread in terms of the weapon. Let's see here. And here is a general idea. So depending on the target cross-section, we have what is an estimate of an accurate range. Alright. Let's see here. Here is our auto-fire railgun, which has a whole different set of statistics. And as you can see, it has a much longer accurate range, even for small targets. It has higher speed of projectile. Let's take a look at our muzzle velocity. Yes. So this is at 6.5 kilometers per second, as opposed to the conventional guns 1.8. So this means that for the same distance, this railgun will reach the target approximately 3 times faster. And if the enemy is maneuvering, you want this, because your targeting solution at the moment of shooting is already outdated. The moment the projectile leaves the muzzle, it will already be missing if the enemy won't be there where the projectile is expected to be. So you hope that by the time your projectile arrives, the enemy has not been maneuverable enough to adjust their heading. And that entirely depends on the size of the target and what their maneuvering options are. Jekyll Rakis, welcome to the convoy. Oh no, a metadata game. I'll get addicted to it. The projectile knows where it is because it knows where it isn't. yes. The Tomahawk missile meme is very applicable here. As you can see here, you need 13 megawatts to fire this weapon. So there's a whole host of statistics here. So let's not go too far into it. So we have, what is YAG? I forget what the acronyms mean for the source of the laser. So lasers are a little different because they don't really scatter their light the way that a gun barrel does. As you can see, look at this drop-off curve. So this is the intensity curve. And here is the intensity, which is the amount of energy per some kind of surface area. So for example, if you had 1 square meter, which is quite a bit of area, you at a range of 2 kilometers would have 6,000 megawatts per that square meter, which is a lot. But this drops off intensely. At a range of around 6 kilometers, which is our railgun's accurate range, you would only have, let's see, so that would be times 2 times 3. That would be 1/6 of the power. And as you go further and further out, you essentially end up having a flashlight. The projectiles suffer too much acceleration to pack electronics. Indeed, you would need some form of guidance, either from the target craft or from an active seeking system built into the projectile, and you would also need electronics that withstand it in order to actually begin some kind of adjustment using thrust packs on the actual projectile. Legend, welcome to the convoy. It is going well. We are about to begin combat in this particular simulation. There is a lot of data. These may be... EVE Online has very different numbers. These are mostly science numbers. Also, we can never go back to dead Earth. We cannot, but we may. Yeah. So this is the turret mount for it. This is a different. This is essentially a ball jointed system for firing the laser. This is the actual lasing module itself, and this is the laser emitter. And you can have one lasing module, whereas the turret is a whole separate component somewhere else on the ship. Essentially, you have tunnels that send light across the ship. And here is a decoy blast launcher, which is in essence a one-shot missile pack. And there will be a decoy in use, which is just a flare for projectiles. Alright, why don't we begin the mission? Oh, what the biscuits is this? Hello, Last Bucket Knight. Welcome to the convoy. We are playing Children of a Dead Earth, which is like Kerbal Space Program, but with guns and nukes. Alright, so let's take a look at ourselves and our target. So we'll select the patrol ship. So this right here is our patrol ship. The Fusion Flower. What a wonderful name. So this is a very, very small craft. And we will be we will be using this vessel as our own craft. Now, if we take a look at the cross-section, we have a crew module located back here. We have a fission reactor, and we have a nuclear rocket engine. Now, if you look, there's also a crew module in the front, and this helps having 2 crew modules, because if one is destroyed, you still have a backup. And as you can see, we have quite a bit of methane inside the vessel. We have a radiator for the crew, and we have a radiator for the reactor itself. So you can see the cross sections of these armored craft. It is very wonderful. Let's see here. Kerbal Space Program, but with guns sold. Not just guns, violence. What's the point of having guns if not to commit violence after all? And I see that Miwa agrees. Yes, I am very much in agreement. So let's take a look at our enemy. All right. And our enemy is the USTA laser skiff. So why don't we focus on it? So this is a different kind of vessel. And unfortunately, we cannot take a look at its internal cross-section, since we do not own it. Let's see. So it has a decoy blast launcher. It has the green laser turret mounts. And overall, it is a very different design. But we do outrange it because the lasers do not put out much power at our maximum range. And the guns on it, while it has more guns, they are weaker. So we will use our range advantage to our best effect. I guess these ship designs also kind of look like flowers in some cases. A little bit. Longer flowers with very hot petals. We imitate nature after all. Oh my lord, how much should I pay for this joy of a science thesis put into interactive entertainment? While we're here, let me shill the game for you. So let me give you a Steam link. So not Sins of a Solar Empire, Children of a Dead Earth. So the game itself has not had updates in a while. So 1 second, please. Children of a Dead Earth. There we go. Let's find the Steam page. I don't remember if it's been on sale recently, but the blog for this game, as a wingmate has said, is actually very good. Let's take a look. There we go. It's $20, but it may go on sale. And yes, the acronym is fantastic. Oh, thank you, Salvatore, for shilling the blog, and welcome to the convoy. All right. So, hello, Admiral. Don't worry about combat for now. Just intercept your enemy. When you do enter combat, a tactical officer will give you a rundown of the options. Well, thanks for the. Oh, look at this. This is a wonderful name. The Laser Skiff USF Ocean of Sorrow. These names are so good. Okay, so we are currently in orbit here, our green ship. Now, we want to intercept this laser skiff. Now, intercepting could mean something as simple as essentially having a point where we get close to one another, or we could match orbits with it. I don't know if I want to match orbits with this skiff. So I think we may end up doing... So let me select this trajectory right here so we can do a maneuver. Okay. Let's start a plot, begin trajectory.
Incoming transmission.
A note on this mission. The enemy's orbit is elliptical rather than circular. As a result, if you do try to orbit phase like the last mission, it will only work properly at the periapsis of the orbit. So we must keep that in mind. One more concern. Jupiter will perturb your orbits heavily, meaning we won't have perfect ellipses for orbits. This may further confound your orbit phasing. So we probably won't do orbit phasing in this mission. As you can see, we can actually visually see Saturn and the remainder of the moons in our current view. But the battlefield is only limited to Jupiter space. Let's see here. Okay. I believe that where is the soundtrack for this? But yes, the soundtrack is very appropriate for this sort of near sci-fi. It's not even a retro soundtrack, I would say. It's just a soundtrack. All right, let's see here. I need some more water wingmates. Eminis, welcome to the convoy. If you outrange, it should keep you at range and pelt as soon as it comes around the moon. Indeed. So let's take a look here. Essentially, the way that we are currently phased, if we look at the trajectory, as we approach this point, the enemy is here, or enemy is behind us, which is the red diamond. And as we continue our way around, the enemy will actually catch up, because this is their fastest point of the orbit as they reach the periapsis of their orbit. And we are actually going a little bit slower. So, there will actually be a flyby maneuver that we could do. This will cost us a lot. It'll be 1 kilometer of delta V. Instead, we're going to do a flyby. Okay, we actually may want to adjust this a little bit. So, what I think I will do... Oh. Sometimes the engine freaks out because this is an N-body simulator. So, I want to, I think, speed... No, I want to speed up a little bit. So at my periapsis, what I may do is actually burn prograde and see what will happen with my intercepts here. So let's see here. How good can we get our intercept path? I only want to fly by. I don't want to actually join the orbit. As you can see, we can very easily exit the orbit of our planet right now, and that will be a problem. So we need to make sure we're very careful here. Let's see here. Okay. Intercept. We're gonna, if we tighten our orbit, what will happen? No, that will be too much delta V. Way too much. Let's see, what if we do a radial burn at this point? What can we do to our orbit? Oh, we can actually hit combat. So let's do a radial burn. There we go. So right here we have an intercept. So that means we will be close enough to actually swing by and blast the enemy target. Oh no, we will actually match them here. Let's see, let's undo that. Let's see, so what we will do is we will select our trajectory again. And, okay, so we can do a flyby. Okay, so the flyby... Do we want to match velocities with them? That is the question. Well, we have plenty of delta V, so why don't we do that? This is a small orbital body, so we're not exactly going to be consuming a lot of delta V. So I'm going to undo that maneuver. And we're going to intercept. There we go. Alright, perfect. So that will cost us only 147 meters per second. So why don't we run our turn? Let's turn to 10 minutes. There we go. Just slowly watching what is happening. Oh. We are slowly drifting into view. Back is tab, I always forget that. One thing I will say is that the UI for this game is incredibly well done. Almost every button, if it has a shortcut, will be given a shortcut. Let's see here. Show Lagrange points. Yes, please do. Show projectiles. Okay, there we go. So let's keep moving. So we are approaching. We are getting very close with our red intercept point here. And now we are about to begin combat. So as you can see, we have zoomed into combat view. And our enemy is the red rhombus directly ahead. Welcome to combat. Combat begins paused, though you can disable this in the options. First of all, this is your rangefinder. The white circles tell you the range to the enemy. In the center of it, it tells you the relative velocity to the enemy and in what direction. Up here, you can see how long it will take for your ship to fly to the enemy, assuming no one speeds up or slows down. The red diamond at the top is the enemy, and the green diamond at the bottom is your spacecraft. Select your spacecraft. There it is. The arc lines indicate the ranges of your weapons. The arc is blue if it's out of range, and orange if it's in range. All of your weapons auto-fire by default. The most are on the sides of your ship, so they will need to be swung around to fire. Get into range, swing your ship into a broadside, and your guns will start blasting. You can give your ship orders with this button. Alright. Let's see here. Homing tells your ship to chase the enemy ships at top speed. Select this order now. There we go. Now select the enemy ship, laser skiff. Now that the enemy is selected, in the rangefinder you can see the enemy's weapon ranges against your own ship. So let's go back very quickly. And if we take a look, combat here is being represented by a one-dimensional, I suppose, line. So one interesting thing here is that our relative velocity is 802 meters per second. So we will be arriving in the combat zone very closely, and we will not be in combat for very long at all. Essentially, that we will have mere... So if our range is about 6 kilometers, let's take a look here. So range 40 kilometers for this particular enemy target size. So we will have about 40 seconds of firing before the target crosses us, and maybe 40 after, although by that point someone may be dead. And the turret cannons will begin firing at 11 kilometers in this particular situation. It kind of looks like we'll be approaching with the sun behind us. The enemy will be blinded. Well, the enemy has sensors besides optical, and unfortunately we will be approaching with Jupiter. In fact, the enemy is approaching us, but we are approaching the enemy because this is all relative motion. It doesn't actually matter who is approaching who. All that matters is that relative to each other, we are barreling towards each other. Something cannons? Hello, Bioshocker. Welcome to the convoy. This chat box kind of blocks the range thing. Oh no, wingmates, I'm so sorry. Apologies, this is actually pretty important. So if you will bear with me, I will actually adjust the size. We will have to suffer with a little bit of a smaller overlay, or I may have to do something with the chat box very soon. All right, let me have this move out a little bit. That is acceptable. That is acceptable. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so hopefully you can see the ranges now. So our turreted cannons are here, and our railguns are here, and we will fly by in 54 seconds, so less than a minute till combat stations. We spent several hours waiting for 1 minute of combat. Alright, so now we can take a look at the enemy's ranges. So they only have a range of 10 kilometers on their cannons, and their laser is effective at 20 kilometers, although it will do less damage. Oh, nothing changed. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. That is always a thing about OBS that gets me. Open broadcasting software indeed. Okay, we can target the enemy systems here. Targeting too many systems at once will defocus your fire. So go in with a single target. Where you target is the most important tactical decision you can make in combat. Target exactly one of their systems now. And I think I want to disable their ability to maneuver. So I will target their nuclear rocket. Actually, this is a laser skiff. So I will actually target their laser... what makes their lasers effective. And then once that's destroyed, I will target their nuclear rocket. Let's see here. Okay, that is good for me. That's all. You can toggle, pause, and unpause with space now. Alright, so we can take a look at this perspective from our patrol ship. So let's take a look. We will want to home, and then we will want to orient broadside. So actually, let's orient broadside already. Because most of our weapons are... Actually, no. Most of our weapons can shoot over the hull, it appears. So let's try nose forward. So we will aim at the enemy fleet that way. Okay. There we go. So let's begin the operation. So we are approaching the enemy target.
Incoming transmission.
Oh. Your railgun's arc line is orange rather than blue, indicating that it is in range. Okay. Your railguns are on the side of your ship, so they can't aim at the enemy until you swing your ship around. Open up the orders to do so. Alright, fine. I'll put it in broadsides. Once your guns are in range and arc, they will fire automatically. It may take a while before the projectiles hit because the enemy is tens of kilometers away. Unpause when ready. Right, so they should start shooting now. Let's see, so... no target in range. Oh, we're paused. There we go. So the railguns are opening up, and we are currently orienting our ship broadside. As you can see, the drive plume.
Incoming transmission.
Oh, the enemy's suffering damage. Select the enemy craft and we can watch it happen. As the enemy takes damage, watching them is a good way to see if your attacks are effective. If not, you'll want to target different systems. Alright, so let's unpause that and take a look at what's going on. So our railgun is currently smashing the... oh, we smashed the radiators. So now we can smash... oh,
Incoming
we took out an enemy module. Let's select their craft. Alright, we have... you can find modules destroyed or disabled in this section. Both next to each module and at the very bottom. Alright, let's see here. So we've disabled quite a bit of this. We've knocked out one of their methane tanks by punching through it. We have disabled both of their radiators. The big ones. And some of the lasers are disabled. And all of the laser cannons are disabled right now. So yes, they are completely unarmed. We will want to disable their nuclear rocket, because that way this ship will be completely combat incapable. Yes, they absolutely never stood a chance, indeed. Yep, it's... look at their armor being shredded. That is essentially the end for them. We managed to destroy their radiators, and now they are doomed. Especially since they're a laser craft.
Incoming transmission.
Good work, Captain. That captain will no longer be an issue for anyone anymore. There we go. All enemies are no longer a threat. And we can go back. Alright. So we completed that mission in 3 hours. Yes, the, hello, Warhammer Dad. Welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. We're playing some Children of a Dead Earth. Alright, let's go on to the next mission. Summary. Destroy a dangerous enemy ship that is in an out-of-plane orbit around Mercury. And the mission title is Predatory Opportunism. Challenges are out-of-plane maneuvering and fleet combat. Given your performance last mission, we had high command. Think you are ready for your first dangerous encounter. Just in time too. After you wrecked the USTA's rogue, quote-unquote, spacecraft around Ganymede, we just saw a spike in aggressive USTA activity, especially around the belt. In particular, they had a warship patrolling the belt when they received a word of us destroying their rogue spacecraft. Shortly after, they diverted that spacecraft to Mercury. Jointly controlled by us and another faction, Mercury is rather important for our tactical operations. Ordinarily, we'd send numerous threats and warnings for the USTA to not violate our orbital space, perhaps hitting them with trade sanctions, but actually making good on those threats won't be worth it to us. Here's the issue, however. With tensions rising over property rights with the United Sol Trade Alliance these past few years, and with their aggression at Ganymede, we've started to do a lot of things we might not normally do. In particular, we've threatened destruction of their ship if they violate our orbital space, which they have, so we're going to make good on our promise. We're going to destroy their ship. Mercury is jointly controlled by our faction and the Iroquois Resurgence, a faction with pretty shaky history with the USTA, and we at High Command were all too happy to take advantage of that fact. We've cut a deal with the faction that agreed to close down all spaceports of Mercury, in exchange for allowing them limited use of our solar-wide propellant depot infrastructure. Right now, the enemy warship is orbiting around Mercury, unable to dock or land or refuel, making it a sitting duck, perfect for us to tear apart. We have a small carrier in orbit of Mercury, which you will use to convert the USTA ship into scrap metal. Ignore the warnings of retaliation, any attempts to surrender, and their protests of Mercury orbital space being a neutral zone. Their ship is quite powerful, especially at gun range, and the opportunity to annihilate while it's low on Delta V far outweighs the consequences. On that note, I'd recommend you keep your capital ship out of combat. Apologies, wingmates. Desynchronization again. Keep your capital ship out of combat range, because the coil gun they have mounted on that ship is both outranges your capital ship weapons and is extremely powerful. The ship itself is commanded by USF Captain Alexander Zhao, a captain with no live combat experience. Regardless of his history, do not expect him to hold back once you enter range. You'll need to be quick about destroying their ship, however. The USTA has reinforcements en route from the asteroid belt, and we estimate that we have about 15 days before we have to call off the attack, lest we be forced to engage with a stronger enemy with actual Delta V. Let's see here. We are not mercenaries. We are an admiral working for the RFA, and we are certainly not the baddies. Everyone is a baddie here. This is a bit of gray morality. Dear God, I guess it really is about sending message. Indeed it is, and that's what we will do. So let's see, orbital inclination. I know this one fairly well. A sufficient way to switch between two orbital planes is to burn where the 2 points intersect. And okay, so I know this maneuver. So drones and missiles is what we should look at. Warfare in space has analogs to certain kind of 21st century warfare practiced on old Earth. For instance, spacecraft are more similar to submarines than cylindrical craft with extremely tight spacing. On the other hand, the extremely high speeds make space warfare much more similar to air-to-air combat on Earth. The greatest analog, however, is surface-to-surface naval warfare. Spacecraft are about the same size as large naval craft, but tend to be much lighter due to how terrible mass is for your Delta V. As a result, large capital spacecraft with lots of Delta V make the large burns to get close to the enemy, and then generally launch drones or missiles at the enemy. Drones are analogous to fighters, launched from aircraft carriers, or more correctly, to UAVs, a small but fast craft with a gun on the front. Replacing the live pilot with a remote pilot on the capital ship saves on size and massive drones, which is crucial for Delta V of both the launching ship and for the drones themselves. Trying to replace capital ships with remote controls as well, however, is not viable because of speed of light lag that results from trying to pilot them from across the solar system. Missiles are similar to anti-ship or anti-tank missiles from old Earth. The difference here is that explosives of all kinds are extremely weak in space, and point defense systems have evolved enough to disarm a single incoming missile. This means that launching clusters of missiles, entire fleets of them, is much more effective than launching one at a time, as was the original tactic. Missiles that launch missiles are OP, only if the game wouldn't crash from it. I've never constructed that, Muna Shedov. I think that would be a little bit crazy if you had sort of an nested Matryoshka Aitano's circus. Oh yes, we're having a flying submarine warfare. I love it. Yes, this is essentially that. And there is no sand in space. But we will be able to hear the hulls of the ships undergoing stress. Ooh, the cataclysm. Let's see, ship destruction. Spacecraft armor. Okay, well, we don't have too much time, so why don't we move on? The Iroquois Resurgence. So I'll read the Iroquois Resurgence. The appearance of the Iroquois Resurgence faction was a surprise to all of the human race. Roughly 80 years after the Cataclysm, after most of the factions had settled down across the solar system, the Iroquois Resurgence suddenly announced their existence, a recent offshoot of the USTA, declaring independence from their parent faction. At the point of secession, they had control of several moons of Neptune and a few asteroids in the belt. The USTA responded with threats of destruction immediately, as soon as light could carry their message at least. But at the time, no one had invested in space military hardware. The Iroquois Resurgence USTA War was the first all-war set entirely in space, and it set the stage for future space warfare. The USTA, using their combined experience of hundreds of years of naval, air, and ground battles, rapidly discovered that nearly everything they were used to was completely obsolete. Specifically, the logistics of maintaining space war were several orders of magnitude more difficult to manage than ground wars. The first war was punctuated by warships getting their propellant tanks punctured, the ships stranded out of Delta V, aluminum tombs in orbit across the solar system, and the very rare combat engagement. In the end, the USTA gave up their war and instead have devoted the following years to simple trade sanctions as retaliation. To this day, the Iroquois resurgence remains a small but significant faction, owing to the various small moons and asteroids across the entire solar system. It is the same reason that Earth launched rockets using stages. Missile buses can be layered for specialization. Oh, missile buses. Yes, yes. Very much so. Using boosters to carry a payload of smaller missiles or even a single missile stage. Have you ever seen The Expanse? It has the same type of hard science fiction combat. Yes, yes. I greatly enjoy The Expanse. Seasons 1 through 3 are my favorite. Although, towards the end, I believe the latest season becomes more enjoyable to me. Long range slow bus launches medium range faster bus launches super high speed short range missiles, which could optionally release a bunch of dumb kinetic penetrators. That does make sense, especially if you play with the game mechanics. The quicker your missile is in terms of a massive acceleration towards the target, basically a short range dash, the less time enemy guns have to destroy those missiles. And that's what guns will do. They will attempt to intercept. So we are currently going to be around Mercury. We will have an escort carrier, which is a 4,000-ton vessel. Let's take a look at it. It has a length of approximately 100 meters. It has a delta V of 4.5 kilometers per second. Let's see here. It has some anti-missile decoys, 2 drone launchers, and 7 smaller railguns. Let's see here, and 5 centimeters of carbon-carbon armor, which is better against lasers, and 5 millimeters of aluminum armor. Alright, let's take a look at our enemy craft. So the enemy has a corvette. So this is bigger. It's 143 meters long, and it has a total tonnage of 5,000 tons or so. And it has a higher delta V, although this is low on delta V at the present time. As you can see, it has 4 13 megawatt 3mm sniper coiled guns and the same sort of 11mm auto-fire railgun. But those sniper coil guns are definitely the biggest problem for us. And it has a similar armor style, 5 centimeters of carbon and 5 millimeters of aluminum. So we have the 33mm internal cannon from the drones. And it has a fairly decent range, but it's on the drones, so we don't care too much about that. So here is the auto-fire railgun. And this one has a range of likely 40 kilometers or so. The sniper railgun has a range of 50 kilometers. So it has significantly more range than our weapons. And it has a higher muzzle velocity. Let's see here, we have a Stinger drone launcher, which is essentially a box for launching drones. And we have our decoys. Ordnance is in use. So this is our most important piece of ordnance. This is our drone. An expendable, remote-controlled, essentially engine with a guidance package and a gun on it. As you can see, it's only 13 meters long, and it only weighs 11 tons. My goodness, it is heavy. But that is still fairly light. Most of it ends up being propellant. And it has a fairly good delta V. So in essence, the way these carriers can work is that while our carrier has a fairly decent delta V, when it launches these drones, the drones themselves have more delta V on top of them because they are not nearly as massive. Let's see here. And it has very, very light armor. Now, unlike the rest of the craft, it has a much higher acceleration. This one has 2.9 gravities of acceleration, as opposed to a fractional gravity of acceleration. If we look at the escort carrier, it has an acceleration of 0.2 gravities, which means that at full fuel capacity, it will essentially only accelerate at 1/5 of Earth gravity. Alright, wingmates, allow me to have a bit of hydration here very quickly. Thank you for your patience, wingmates. Alright, let's begin this combat. We will be using drones here primarily for our battle. Alright, here we go.
Incoming transmission.
Okay, for this mission, Admiral, I recommend launching drones to take out your enemy. Drones are much smaller than your capital ships, and so can get much closer to the enemy, before the enemy can target them effectively. Let's open up your fleet now, and I'll show you how to launch them. Alright, let's take a look at our orbital inclination. This is a right mess right here. Oh my goodness. So the enemy is very, very inclined. This is very bad. Okay, let's open up our fleet. So let's focus. There we go. You can launch drones using buttons on this panel. In small to large groups. By default, they will split into a separate fleet. However, you can change this with circular toggle buttons. Alright. Something to note, however, your drones have somewhat less delta V than your capital ship. You might want to get your main ship closer to the enemy before launching drones. For instance, if you enter into the enemy orbital plane, then launch drones, your drones won't have to spend delta V for that out-of-plane maneuver. Feel free to experiment to find the solution that works best for you. One last point about drones. Canceling their initial order can be valuable for saving delta V when not in range, since they burn through their delta V a lot in combat. Good luck. And that is what we will do. So, this is our carrier in action. As you can see, it has a 13.5 megawatt fusion reactor, and it has these nuclear rockets powered by it. And essentially, how it works is it pushes methane through the reactor, heating up the methane. And once you run a heated gas out of these nozzles, you in essence will have that thrust you need. So this is a monopropellant rocket in the sense that it does not have two fuels combining. Let's see, I forget what the fluorine is for. But we have a lot of methane, but what was the fluorine for? Oh, it's for the drones. The drones might be using a different fuel source. I think the drones might be using fluorine. So as you can see, we can see that these ships all have their cross sections. We have fluorine refuelers, methane refuelers, and we have the launchers for the drones, which are these little coffin boxes. And you can essentially click on all of these components. It's really fantastic how these ships are designed. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go back to the map. We want to make sure that we align our orbital plane together. I don't know what this... Oh, I see. That is an intercept. Okay. So, we will need to do a orbital phasing maneuver. Let's make sure that we do that. So what we will do is we will hit T to begin a trajectory. And we will put that trajectory... Where will we put that trajectory? We want to make sure that we burn at our orbital node plane. So this orange bit right here. Or this pink and red intersect point. So right here, orbital node, the point where this crosses the target orbital plane. Alright, so we will now adjust our orbital inclination, because right now our orbits are at completely different inclinations. So I will be going around this way. So I need to burn... No, I need to burn here. There we go, and I need to burn up. There we go. And we are adjusting... Oh, my goodness. Oh, these perspectives are giving me conniptions. Okay, let's see here. Am I pulling the wrong tab? I might be. There we go. This reminds me of the book Ender's Game. Gets a brain a-chugging. Indeed, it does a little bit. And Spacer said, McFlurry. I'm curious now. Ancient Terran dessert. I do not know if I said it. I may have minced my words a little bit. Okay, Asman, welcome to the convoy. I'm unsure if he knows what one is. I have seen enough references to it to understand that there are McFlurries, but I'm not 100% sure what they would taste like. So let's begin our out-of-plane maneuver here. Ah. Okay. So, one of the big issues here is that... yes. Okay. So we do our out-of-plane maneuver, but we're going to have some problems here. Because if we cannot... So here's the thing, wingmates. We cannot adjust our orbital inclination all in one fell swoop. Because if we attempt to do a big burn, as you can see, we simply leave the orbit of the planet. So let's do little inclination changes, one orbit at a time. So for now, we will do that, and we will continue adjusting our inclination as necessary. Carbide, you want a McFluffy now, or McFlurry. Ice cream drink somehow. I see. Or ice cream in general. Even in the future, they still haven't found a way to fix the McFlurry machines. Tisk. I have seen that particular mimetic image. Wingmates, what is your favorite, one, flavor of ice cream? And two, what is your favorite mode of having ice cream served? And that can include things that involve a cone, or even on top of a brownie or something, but that would be interesting to hear. Alright, so let's do our maneuver here. Alright, so we've adjusted our maneuver. So why don't we actually do another maneuver? So let's do it at the next orbital plane. And we will once again begin adjusting our inclination. So out of orbit maneuver. And another gentle inclination adjustment. There we go. We'll run our turn. We've adjusted our inclination once again. So every time we pass this point, we are adjusting our inclination. And we have 14 days left. But I think we'll be able to do it. So we'll keep adjusting. We're using our carrier's propellant so that our drones don't have to do this. Oh, we could have actually saved time. There we go. So we've adjusted our inclination again. Perfect. Let's see here. So we have chocolate, cake batter, in a snow cone. Oh. Strawberry ice cream in a waffle cone. A good choice. Raise your apoapsis nice and high for cheap plane changes. Oh! You are very right, Rent-A-Cow. You are very right. I am burning way more. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I've completely forgotten that tip. I should have reread it. So let's not get too close to the enemy, but let's make sure our apoapsis is actually adjusted. And so at here, at the orbital inclination point, at the orbital node point, we're going to select our trajectory and do another orbital plane change here. There we go. Keep adjusting that. Not too much. All right, let's run our turn. Okay, good. We're not actually going to intercept them on a combat run, I think. Let's see here. Alone, served with plates, cups, pistachio ice cream. Ah, interesting. Pistachio is a good flavor. Cookies and cream, excellent. With a waffle cone, yes. I'm a heathen that gets the Neapolitan ice cream and mixes all the flavors together. Oh, Carbide, I see that you enjoy the decadence of everything together. You know, I will respect that. Mint chocolate chip, served scooped on a waffle cone. Also very good. I see that waffle cones are very popular. Actually, there are these Magnum ice creams. They are on a stick, but it is raspberry ice cream. It is raspberry ice cream dipped in chocolate, and it is very good. That does sound very fascinating indeed. Oh my goodness, it really wants me to intercept, but that's the last thing I want to do. Let's go with the trajectory. And let's move to this node here. Go. We are not going to intercept. We are instead going to have a further alignment. Let's take a look at how much the alignment is getting closer. A little bit more out of plane. There we go. We don't want that burn to be too long. Oh, we have accidentally flipped over. There we go. All right, run the turn. Run the turn. Hopefully the enemy won't intersect us, or won't decide to do it. Yes, they have not. Okay, so now we need to go back to the orbital node and work on our trajectory, and once again keep aligning it. Okay, so that should be vaguely close. Yes. That should be rightfully aligned. Close enough for government work, as they say. So let's run the turn. There we go, there we go, there we go. And we do our maneuver. Okay, so now we are in the same orbital plane. What we could do is actually... So we will want our drones to sweep by. So can we save the game? I forget that you can't save the game. Yes, the Magnums are very interesting from what I've seen in terms of visuals. Normal cone. I see, I see. The Magnum Pops are different flavors. When did we move from orbital ballistics to ice cream? I looked away for a second. I'm hungry. Imagine being told you're heading into combat engagement only to wait a little over a day to launch drones. That is basically it. Most of the time the crew spends doing very little in terms of actual combat. And if you're flying drones, it's definitely a different sort of thing. And all this time, you are sending communications back to headquarters. Okay, let's see here. So, why don't we... Now, do I want to actually... I may actually want to give our drones a bit more of a chance. Let's see, so... When can I... I am orbitally... I am not phased correctly in terms of orbit. So at the we are... So we're going faster than this target. So if we are here, one orbit away, we are actually catching up to them. So let's make sure that we catch up to the enemy. So we're going to do a couple of... We're going to do a 6-hour turn. Okay. We're going to catch up to them. We'll do another 6-hour turn. Oh, we actually sped past them. Whoops. I wish I could undo that. Let's see here. So, let's select our trajectory again. So here, how much can we burn? Oh, so we don't need that much delta V to match orbits. So what I think we will do is we will circularize to slow down. So at our apoapsis here, we're going to extend our orbit. Okay, and we're going to do our tangential burn to extend that orbit just a little bit. We could even have a combat intersect that occurs. But we don't want that. We want our drones to do a combat intersect. There we go. Alright, so why don't we do that? And we're pretty out of phase, but I may have made a mistake. Alright, let's launch our drones. So let's zoom in on this, and we will launch all of our drones. There we go. And that's what it looks like to launch the drones. They simply pop out of the launchers, and they form up their own fleet. Let's take a look here. I think we had 24 drones in total. There's only one ship. Yes, HQ, it's been a day and a half, but I am certain we're about to match orbit. I can begin planning the 18-hour interception plan. That is kind of how it goes. This is space warfare is all about maneuver warfare. The actual engagements tend to be flybys or tend to be over very quickly. Everything is about planning, everything is about logistics. More so than ground combat. This is all about logistics. I sort of love how the slow pace of space combat is. A single engagement could last days. You could eat, sleep, etc. What is technically an intense fight. Indeed, indeed. So let's zoom out and turn back in, and the drones will have arranged themselves into their fleet right here. So the drones all have the same statistics unless they're damaged, but if they're damaged, they're essentially destroyed. Do we say drones away? Drones away! And then you blow up. Yes. Actually, space combat is fine. The way we can watch Spacer while watching drones explode in the distance. Well, I'm glad you like that. So let's see. So default remote control. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten most of this behavior, but we'll play around with it as time comes. Oh, I forgot to turn on the armor visualizer for our ship. So let's see here. This is its own fleet now. So let's select our drone fleet. So drone fleet, there we go. So let's go with the trajectory. And we can we need to slow down. So what we need to do is we need to actually burn forward a little bit in order to let the enemy catch up with us. There we go. So we've done one tangential burn, and then we can intercept. Let's see. We're going to intercept the fleet. Perfect. So now our course is plotted. We're going to burn ahead so that we slow down, as counterintuitive as it is. And then we're going to do a set of burns in order to match our actual velocity together. So there is our set of burns that we'll be doing. We'll be doing a retro burn, and then we'll be doing a tangential burn in order to push ourselves into the correct trajectory. And this is much easier than in Kerbal Space Program, where none of this is calculated for you. In Stellaris, logistics are very important, but battles happen a lot faster, and it's all in. You either need to retreat or stay and fight. Not much room for maneuvering except jumping from one system to another. And thank you again for the love, TK. Yes. I think that, in general, I prefer a view of warfare, which is mostly about positioning and force arrangement. For example, what we are doing right now is an excellent example of utilizing limited resources, limited assets, to destroy an enemy in an asymmetrical manner. Right now, we have the advantage, and we should consider it a completely valid tactic to take full advantage of that, and simply destroy the enemy while they are down. And always try to outnumber the enemy. This is basic Sun Tzu sort of stuff. Deception, maneuver warfare, outnumbering the enemy, running when you are weak, knowing when to retreat. This is a puzzle game. To anyone who thinks that this is some kind of action shooter, no. Children of a Dead Earth is a puzzle game. It's a three-dimensional orbital mechanics and combat puzzle game. That is really how you should treat it. Alright, there we go. We're going to take our turns very slowly. Okay, and we're going to do a very hard braking burn. We're going to burn up most of our Delta V. Okay, so we are paused. We will reach the enemy. We will be in range of the enemy at 17 kilometers, whereas the enemy will be able to shoot at us at 18 kilometers. So there will be approximately, and at our current velocity of 1.3 kilometers per second, there will be quite a bit of overshoot. So we will want to destroy them as soon as possible. So we will want to disable both of the radiators. Apologies, just the primary set of radiators and the nuclear rocket. Everything else is irrelevant. So basically we want to target the aft end of this craft. Make sure that it cannot maneuver and that it loses its ability to cool itself down properly. Solus Sieve. What a good name for the ship. Okay, so let's take a look. Distributed targeting. If enabled, targets will be distributed amongst turrets and ships. Yes, that's a good idea. Let's see. Dodge prediction. If enabled, we'll attempt to estimate the enemy's future dodges. Yes, we want dodge prediction, but we do not want to ignore range. And we have a lot of ammo left. So we're not going to disarm the drones. Distributive homing. So we will distribute targets amongst the missiles that we have. Use default phases. Yes, that is okay. Force boost phase. When homing, lock in the boost phase behavior, usually at high and guided acceleration. Force mid-course correction. And then force terminal phase. So we're not going to do that. We're going to use the default phases. We're not going to have high acceleration attacks. Let's see here. Interesting. So there is a small generator on the drones. There's a small radiator and a small combustion rocket. So this is a very, very limited sort of craft. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I did not notice. Kimmy Spice, welcome to the convoy. Wingmates, we have an alien invaders. Prepare the autocannons and prepare the missiles. Fire away, fire away. All guns, fire, fire, fire. Good effect on target. My goodness, Kimmy Spice. My missiles do nothing? What kind of defenses do you have? No, no! Wingmates, we are running low on munitions and there has been no effect on the enemy forces. Prepare for full burn. We are going to 10 gravities. On my mark. 5, 4, 3, 1, burn! Alright. Hold it together, crews. Hold it together. No, Space Ghost. Do not exit. No! Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, Raiders. I don't do this much, but since quite a few individuals appear to have visited us, my name is Spacer Haywire, and I am an independent Starship operator who enjoys doing streams of various sorts of games and other things related to the subjects of mecha, of spacecraft, of and just science fiction in general, at least what Terrans perceive as science fiction. I am transmitting remotely from the Far Suns Coalition over the JumpNet, which is a faster-than-light communications network. And in my youth, as a rambunctious individual, I discovered the Terran internet through a long-forgotten JumpNet node, which I only discovered by randomly searching various addresses. And through that sheer luck, I have stumbled upon this and decided to attempt my hand at virtual streaming with my own avatar, as I thought it was quite an enjoyable thing to see Terrans doing. Ah, yes. I'm not a hunter of pirate ships, unfortunately, as I mostly fear pirate ships. I tend to run, and my armament is rather weak. Apricots and Andra. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I mostly enjoy the Battletech franchise, but one day I would like to play the Armored Core games. Alright. Oh, and yes, I do a bit of art. Charlotte's Spirit. I don't know if I'm an e-boy, if you would like to say that. But if you perceive me as such, then so be it. Many call me a trucker or a pickle. I apologize for the rather uninspiring view right now, but we are currently actually in combat. We are facing the enemy corvette here, the Solace Sieve, which we are currently attacking with a fleet of drones. We will be targeting its radiators, which allow the craft to cool down. It has currently leveled its guns at us in a broadside formation, and I will turn on armor view so we can see how much damage each tile of armor the enemy is experiencing. How much damage they are experiencing. Like for today, when some of our science fiction gets moved to nonfiction. I do too. I certainly hope that this particular instance of Terra, whatever is going on, because my dear wingmates, your technology is rather behind the state of the art. I am not sure why, but I certainly hope that advances shortly. So let's resume combat. We will be attacking in a matter of seconds. Enemy is beginning fire with sniper coil guns. So these are tracers, so that we at least can see what is happening. So our drones are currently firing. This combat is going to be over in 5 seconds, wingmates. Oh yes, I am also fluent in Russian, but I'm not sure about the vodka and the squats. Be sure to start at Armored Core Nexus, since starting from there, the games use dual analog controls. Ah, I see. I may try 4 Answer first, because I have an incredible hankering for playing with the arms forts. But yes, the drone fleet is firing enormous quantities of autocannon munitions. In essence, from all directions, we are shattering this drone. Or this Corvette. The Corvette is essentially disabled. As you can see, in a matter of seconds, this fight, which we had been unlining for in orbit for days. Arms fort are just there to job. I know, but I love the arms fort so much, Attenborough. Behind Sota? Have you ever seen our Evangelion shaving technology? I do not think I have. That is the problem. I'm nuclear! Alright. That enemy is about to lose their radiators. And the mission is a success. Alright. Let's see if we can actually make what the drone's orbit looks like now. So, excellent. This undeclared war is starting on a very good note indeed, Admiral. Now let's go back to port before enemy reinforcements arrive. So that literally took, I think, 12 seconds. That is how long a buildup of months for the actual transfer orbits, followed by approximately a day of maneuvering. 18 seconds is how quickly this was over with. And we have completely shredded the enemy. And now our drones swing by with a massive velocity, leaving them stranded and essentially completely surrendered. They are no longer combat capable. We may be able to send a rescue craft for them. So, I can't actually see the orbits very well right now. Oh, this is very unfortunate. I can't go back to the map view. That is one thing I wish was possible, going back to the map view. Let's focus on Mercury. Well, I guess we are done with this mission. Excellent. Cooking alive from their own reactor heat. Well, Biggles, I think that because the reactor is directly connected to the heat sinks in the drive, it is a little bit different than the radiators that we actually did not destroy their crew radiators. So in all likelihood, the crew is alive and they will not be injured. Let's see here. Oh, we were drawing Metal Gear fan art before the raid. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I apologize, Kimmy Spice, I apologize. I was so obsessed with this game that I completely forgot to ask how your stream was. I sincerely apologize about that. I was having a bit of a moment. Yes, someone saw the Silvervale stream. Gorion, what was this Silvervale stream? Newtonian space combat. Where it happens, it's a very bloody and fast. Indeed, it was terrifying. I'm glad I'm on your side. Yes, very much so. Ooh, I'm glad. Yes. So which Metal Gear was being drawn, Kimmy? I'm very curious. All right, we're moving on to the next mission. There's quite a few choices. I don't know if it was one of the more recent ones, like Sahelan Tropos, or however you pronounce that one. Let's see. A small diversion. Challenges tight Delta V budget. So this might be a very difficult puzzle mission. Rendezvous a research craft with a space station on a low Delta V budget around Pallas. Time limit 15 days. Silvervale had a virtual tour of Akihabara, and the host bought an Ava-themed shaving razor. Oh, yes. I have seen Silvervale before. I just didn't realize that she was doing an Akihabara tour. I wish I could have drawn one of those mechs. No, I was drawing Quiet. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I always assume Metal Gear is the actual Metal Gear itself. Quiet has a fantastic styling, and also an interesting character arc, I suppose. Nippon Prime. Well, I look forward to seeing that posted on social media, this particular art of Quiet. Alright. Our propaganda machine is already spinning the exchange with the USTA as a positive, and the majority of the solar system appears to believe that the USTA fleet fired first. As expected, given the Falklands precedent set centuries ago, the USTA have not officially declared war, and so neither will we. Regardless, we expect retribution over the coming months, and we are preparing for all-out, undeclared war. On your end, we have a new task ready for you. Let's see here. She certainly has a fantastic pair of stylings. Clams Cove, welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. I have been good. We are currently playing some Children of a Dead Earth, which is in essence a hard science fiction, near future Starship combat simulator with very accurate N-body simulation and very accurate Starship system physics, along with a puzzle element to it. And we are about to do a puzzle mission. Okay. Let's see here. On your end, we have a new task ready for you. Since the first major exchange between two major factions in modern history has just taken place, we're diverting any of our craft away from any celestial bodies with a major USTA presence. We have had a research craft under the command of Captain Mendoza en route to Ida, but the USTA practically owns everything on that rock, and everything in orbit around it too. Thus, we had to divert the science vessel to Pallas, and the spacecraft ended up being extremely short on Delta V after injecting. Pallas is actually devoid of allied craft currently, and the Nippon Prime faction, controlling most of Pallas, is refusing our demands to refuel it. We suspect that the USTA has had a hand in influencing Nippon Prime's decision via money or military threats to refuse to help us. Your mission is to try to finish up the rendezvous with the scant Delta V left in our craft's tanks. It'll be tight, but we're sure it's doable, so it should really help you to hone your orbital maneuvering skills. You have 15 days before the provisions run out. Yes. We shoot nukes, space nukes at people. I hope that the nukes will be very soon. Ah, Carbide, thank you for being with the convoy for as long as you could be. Your presence is much appreciated. I hope that you rest well, and we will certainly do our best with the atomic weapons. Puzzle game for physicists. Well, it does get a lot of the physics for you, so it's not quite for physicists. That face when you make nuclear reactors out of a spider web. Nuclear reactors of a spider web. Salvatore, what is that a reference to? Let's see, so we have frames of reference, scale in space, trillions of kilometers, yes indeed. Nippon Prime, we should read that actually. So this is Pallas, which is an orbit of Sol. It's simply a meteorite, or a meteor. Or perhaps a dwarf planet, if you would like to call it. They got Gundams, Space are screwed. I don't know if I am. I don't know if they have Gundams. So we have a research craft, which we are trying to get to save. And that research craft is composed of components that I can't actually look at. And then we have a cargo station right here. So this one, I believe, is mostly cargo modules, and it has a reactor on board. So why don't we... See, asteroid belts are extremely sparse. There is a lot of wonderful lore that I highly recommend anyone read. Let's see here. Factions, Nippon Prime. Let's read Nippon Prime. Let's see here. It is a very gorgeous planetoid. A very pretty rock. Nippon Prime, abbreviation NP, ship prefix NSF. Arguably the only faction to retain a single national identity from Earth, Nippon Prime is the spacefaring evolution of the nation of Japan from Earth, and is the only faction to trace its formation to pre-Cataclysm history. Nippon Prime originally started as a right-wing political party of pre-Cataclysm Japan, regularly calling for the militarization of the country due to rising tensions with the UKPP, Unified Korean Peninsular Protectorate. The political party had substantial backing from the country's military-industrial complex, its robotics and cybernetics industries, and most of all, its space industry. When the Cataclysm happened, Nippon Prime was already well established in the solar system, with small research colonies dotting the solar system, from the moons of Uranus to the moons of Saturn, to several asteroids. And when key members of Japanese leadership, including the Prime Minister, evacuated Earth, the rocket trying to catch the Japanese skyhook disintegrated after launch in one of the only accidental failures of Nippon Prime's nearly spotless record of perfect launches. Yes, they are very much Space Japan. Beam katanas, beam katanas. The loss of key elements of the Japanese government vastly increased the political control Nippon Prime had. In the first democratic election after the disaster, Nippon Prime gained control of a majority of the legislature and installed their own radical prime minister. Over time, playing on fears of human extinction, promising strength and survival, Nippon Prime dissolved the democratic government and implemented a monarchy. They have maintained a strong presence across the solar system ever since. Nippon Prime has major claims in the Uranus system and the Saturn system, and holds close ties to the USTA, being the primary trade partner to the USTA. They hold a few claims in the inner solar system, but that presence is rather minor compared to the other factions there. As the years have passed since the first space war between the USTA and the Iroquois resurgence, Nippon Prime has engaged in numerous successful military campaigns across the solar system, slowly subsuming smaller factions either through the threat of destruction or through destruction itself. They are led by the Eternal Empress, Kinoshita Asami, who has apparently led Nippon Prime since its days back on Earth, over 200 years ago. It is unclear whether Nippon Prime has developed a method of life extension technology that is vastly more efficient than anything in existence on the market, or if Kinoshita has simply been cloned numerous times, and a new Empress is unfrozen and grown to replace the old one every time the last one gets old or dies. Or if the Empress is simply an extremely convincing android doppelganger, created to replace the real Empress, who would have died a long time ago. So as you can see, there are some very interesting factions present in the Children of a Dead Earth universe. I require some more hydration. Just 1 second, please. We all know Nintendo is actually a massive megacorp in Nippon Prime. He added too many Pokemon and dissolved it. Well, we don't know if she is actually immortal. A tragic shogi incident. I don't know how tragic shogi can get, but I definitely can see that. So let me quickly skim across the recommended reading here. So rendezvous and intercept, embody problem, with 18 degrees of freedom, intercepting fleet function similarly. Let's make sure the difference of velocity between the chaser and target is as possible. Okay, there we go. Orbital belts. Okay, cool. Let's begin the mission, wingmates. Yes, we will now begin gameplay. Given that the Japanese royal family is said to have descended directly from the goddess Amaterasu, she might have been given some divine powers like immortality. Well, this is a fairly hard sci-fi game, so while that could happen, we don't know. Alright, let's check our objectives. Message log. I've forgotten my objectives. I think it's rendezvous with the space station. Alright, so we need to rendezvous with the cargo station. So, we will select our craft and we begin plotting a trajectory.
Incoming transmission.
For this mission, you will find very quickly that maneuvers will take up all of your remaining Delta V. Matching orbits and joining with the target craft will cost significant amounts of Delta V and time. It always costs this, but this mission is the first time where you don't have enough Delta V to ignore this cost. To minimize the amount of Delta V used for these maneuvers, try to enter into them at a similar velocity. This is best done by entering as shallow of an angle as possible. For instance, when matching orbit, hitting the orbit head-on is sure to be expensive, while barely brushing it is by far cheaper to match. One more note on these maneuvers. You do not have to exactly select the orbit icon to execute match orbit. Anywhere nearby that icon on the trajectory can also allow you to match the orbit, and varying distance away from the icon can affect Delta V and time cost. Same goes for all such similar maneuvers. Okay, here we go. Monarchies become a lot more variable when you use genetic modification or technological integration to extend your lifespan by hundreds of years. Indeed. Yeah, monarchies tend to fall apart in future generations. That's when one person tends to last longer if they have strong policies. HQ, I forgot why I'm here piloting this ship. A little bit. It's certainly a convenient solution to resolving the traditional weakness of monarchies. HQ, I've run out of canned beans. Roger that. What is the research craft actually called? The Eternal Equinox. What a wonderful name. And we won't be turning off any of the components on it. Let's see here. Oh, we can look at the details of the crew module. I know we can't, unfortunately. Okay, so we'll zoom out. What does so this is our research craft. As you can see, the lighting does not happen when there is no sunlight. And of course, the skin of the craft on where it is lit up is much hotter. That is something you must always consider in terms of designing a craft. So let's go back and begin our orbital maneuvering. So here's our apoapsis, and I think what we may try to do is do a retrograde burn. How many? Okay. Let's see here. Oh. Okay. So what we're going to do is try to enter this orbit as shallow as possible. There we go. Okay. So we should be able to do this, but we also need to make sure we match the fleet here. So let's see, can match orbit at a cost of 26 meters per second. So right now, to do this, we will consume 4 meters per about 5 meters per second of Delta V. Yes, it's an excellent ship name. So for anyone not familiar with what Delta V is, Delta V is the ability of your ship to change velocity, and it is counted in meters per second or kilometers per second. In this case, in meters per second, because we are so low on Delta V. And essentially, orbiting is all about speed and how fast, and you being able to change that will also affect your orbits. So we must budget our operations like this. So one of the issues that we're running into here is we are actually being affected by how weak the gravity is here on Pallas. So we don't have perfectly circular orbits. So why don't we run the turn? Oh my goodness, when is this intercept going to happen? The burn will happen in 2 days. That is, right, let's turn our turn speed to 1 day. And okay, there we go. So now we are on approach to Pallas. So we should match orbits, but we should also make sure that we intercept. So when we are here, we are going too slow. Oh. This is not good phasing. So either way, we will have to drop our orbit at periapsis. So what we'll do now is we will actually... So we need to be faster than this. Or it needs to be faster than us to catch up. Because right here we will be... we won't have much time, but we can do this. We can do this. All right, so going back to this. Trajectory mode. We are too fast. We need to slow down. So Delta V, in some sense, is a measure of fuel, and Rust Bucket is a good name for a ship, E-Ghost. So, imagine... So, Delta V is a measure of... So imagine your car, if... So a car has, say for example, gallons in its fuel tank. And your measure of how far a car can go is measured in how long you can keep pushing the car at a certain distance, at a certain speed, for however long it can go. Now, a ship can do the same thing by burning its engines. And it can essentially push itself faster and faster for only a limited amount of time, till every bit of fuel aboard has been expended and thrown out the back. Is V velocity or I'm misreading? Yes, it's the delta velocity, and delta is the word for change. So delta V is change in velocity, really. So imagine if you were... how to put this? So imagine if you are in an ice rink, where you can never slow down because the ice is frictionless. And you are currently sliding on your... You are sliding on your butt. And you are out of control. And you want to... And you have 3 model rockets on you. And each one of those rockets should be able to change your speed on the ice as you slip and slide around a certain amount, if you were to light them in your hand and hang on. It's a terrible analogy, but in essence, Delta V is how much those rockets can change your speed. So it is like miles per gallon, or it is like miles of range in a fuel tank, but for orbital maneuvers. So is this the measure of the ship's potential for maneuverability? Yes, yes. Every single maneuver in any direction is expenditure of Delta V. To maneuver, you must change your speed. And change of speed, or velocity more accurately, because velocity is a vectorized quantity. Delta V is that. Change in velocity. So, in essence, any maneuver is that, and so it is your maneuverability. But it also means... it also is mandatory for orbital mechanics, because certain operations, in terms of orbital mechanics, have a Delta V cost. For example, the orbital maneuver that I'm about to engage in, which will make me a faster orbiter than this guy here, will So here I'm gonna circularize and tighten up our orbit. Just tighten it up a little bit. There we go. So this orbital maneuver will cost me 28 meters per second of delta V. And this means that, in essence, I will lose that from my ability because I've burned some propellant doing this. There we go. Hello, Airborne Ninja. Welcome to the convoy. Whenever you do a maneuver, you lose delta V. Exactly. Delta V in physics is a variation from the final speed minus the initial speed, if you recall correctly. Yes. And because it is not speed. Speed is a magnitude. When we talk about speed, we say, in essence, it doesn't matter which way you're going. If you're going 50 miles an hour south and you're going 50 miles an hour north, that is the same speed. But velocity is a vectorized quantity, and we actually care about direction. So 50 miles per hour north is very different from 50 miles per hour south. And in spaceship terms, that is a total delta between the two vectors of 100 total magnitude. In essence, because you have to stop going north, and then you have to start going south. So first you slow down to 0, and then you go back from 0 to 55. Yes. I am no rocket scientist, but this is something an independent Starship operator tends to figure out over time, even if you do let computers do most of the work for you. And of course, I'm not berating anyone. I am simply being pedantic right now with my love of the vectorization. All right, so let's run our turns here. We can actually probably run 6-hour turns. Okay, so we are going to tighten up our orbit. So now we need to plot and intercept. Let's see here. So we are going slightly faster. We are going slightly faster. We are going slightly faster. We're going slightly faster. And how many days will it take us? Let's do a single day. We do not want to match orbit, but when will we reach it? So this is a problem. We may actually need to slow down, speed up a little bit more. So let's go back to maneuver and drag ourselves. Oh, here, perfect. So this little green triangular lines joining into a single line is interception. So we can join the cargo station. Oh, what? Oh, whoops. I apologize, wingmates. I messed that up. There we go. We will join the cargo station. And we will have enough delta V to accomplish this maneuver. Let's see here. It's not as simple as a measure of fuel, as the more fuel you burn, the less mass you have to move. Yes, Airborne Ninja, that is very important. So imagine that you have a ship that is mostly fuel. Every time you have to throw fuel out the other end, you end up having less and less mass to use. So at the end of the day, it is much easier to move an object that is lighter by throwing other objects away from it. And that is really what your engine is doing. It's throwing molecules of heated gas backwards. And over time, that gets lighter. So it definitely is a complicated mathematical relationship. And depending on the efficiency of your engine in terms of how fast it can throw that mass out the back of the rocket, that is your fuel economy. That is your specific impulse. And the higher the specific impulse, the more delta V for a given mass fraction of your craft that is reaction mass will you have. And by reaction mass, I mean anything that will be thrown out the back through an engine nozzle. So for example, if you have a craft that is by weight 90% fuel, you will have more delta V than a craft that is 50% fuel by mass. Let's see here. It is incredibly complex, but I would like to do an orbital mechanics lecture at some point, where we will go over all of this mathematics. And here we go. 1 hour. And we've completed the mission, wingmates. Thank you. The crew was starting to get concerned. We'd be left floating in the dark forever about Pallas, orbiting a tiny rock in the vast nothingness of space. The next time we call in an allied spaceport. Oh, the next time we're in an allied spaceport, drinks are on me. Well, looks like we've earned the favor of this particular crew. Every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. It's just that in space, the math is way more complicated, Sir Isaac Newton. Yes. The there's a lot going on there, but I think if you can put it into very simple visual, I suppose, into something visual, it is much simpler to understand the way this works. Let's see here. Newton with extra steps. Space is scary, but not as scary as the ocean. Too much math. Yes. The ocean is scary because underwater is quite terrifying. Although here, if you run out of delta V, you are basically floating in a alloy and composite coffin, which will slowly run out of atmosphere or breathable atmosphere, and will slowly run out of supplies. So getting stranded in space is quite awful. All right, next mission. Oh, this is going to be a serious bit of combat. So challenges, out of plane maneuvering. So we will have a different set of orbital planes and fleet combat. Combat against enemy spacecraft. Neato, you're just floating in your coffin. Yes. And you will likely be quite desiccated by the time anyone arrives. Well, surprisingly, barreling straight into anything is very difficult, because if you saw, just adjusting our orbit to get even close to Pallas, which we were gravitationally captured around, actually demanded some very significant effort. So, getting to the point where you actually collide with an orbital body is actually surprisingly difficult. Now, the problem arises when you are not accurate about the routes that would take you very close to another planet. Then the margin of error could cause you some serious problems. I'd hate to think about how complicated it would be to undo the effects of space on the human body. Well, it depends on what kind of effects you're experiencing. If you have poor radiation shielding, you are in deep trouble. If you do not have gravity, your bones will weaken and you will suffer other such effects. Fortunately, most of the craft that I interact with, including the wishful thinking upon which I do my courier work, has a gravitational section, or a spin grav section. And as much as I would love to dive into a lecture on spin grav, essentially you use a centrifuge. If any of you have ever held something on a string and swung it around, that force of the string being pulled out of your hand is that particular force that simulates gravity in a centripetal habitat like that. But I would need some visual references for that particular thing. If we have time after this particular venture of ours, I may show you some images of centripetal gravity systems. Okay, orbital fallout. Summary: defend both a space station and a spacecraft, and destroy an aggressive enemy craft. Time limit: 20 days. Doesn't unprotected exposure to space turn your insides to outsides? Radiation and other exposures. So one of the interesting things is, if you are exposed to hard vacuum without a spacesuit, the effects are not necessarily fatal. One of the things that will happen is the air will be pulled out of your lungs very quickly, because it is at much higher pressure than anything outside. And so will any other gases in your body be essentially immediately expelled. So there is that embarrassing fact. But at the same time, your body is surprisingly tight in terms of air tightness or fluid tightness. So while you will begin to swell due to the pressure of your, I suppose, inner fluids beginning to bulge out as there's no more atmospheric pressure holding you out, you will not necessarily explode or anything like that. There have been plenty of instances of people being in hard vacuum and only experiencing mild deleterious effects. The primary issue is near immediate asphyxiation, running out of oxygen in your bloodstream and being unable to rescue yourself. That is the primary issue. But I will say that emergency spacesuits oftentimes are nothing but a helmet and a skin-tight suit, a compression suit, which keeps your fluids from bulging out. Essentially, there is no air around your body in those suits, except for where your mouth is. Everything else is pressed tight against you to keep you from swelling. And also eye protection. Oh, let's see here. Oh, apologies, roommates. 1 second, please. I remember in a zombie book, the astronauts in the ISS stayed up way too long to keep important stuff functional, and they were riddled with all sorts of cancer maladies. Yes, they did not have enough adequate shielding in low Earth orbit, even despite the Van Allen radiation belts protecting us from most of it. You do need good shielding either through water or through some sort of composite or simple good old lead to keep the gamma rays and other sorts of stellar nightmares away from you. Vacuum exposure is not good, but you aren't necessarily going to explode. Indeed, indeed. Your lung tissue will likely be very bruised. We are just flesh bubbles after all. If I correctly expands, the ships are built vertically, like a tower block, and use g-forces from the acceleration, and then the deceleration is a form of gravity. Yes, Biggles. That is how the Expanse does it, and some of their ships do have a form of artificial rotating gravity, I think, if I recall correctly. But perhaps they are not pictured in the actual show, because for them, fusion drives are so cheap that you can burn the whole time. Well, your blood would boil if it was exposed to hard vacuum, but your blood is in a bag. That bag is called your flesh. Emergency evac bed, kind of, Kimmy, kind of. Except a little bit in reverse. There's a lot of bands that tighten around. The human body is so lame, put me a bunch of metal. Well, Shiloh, I suppose you could be... There are procedures to extract the human brain and place it in a cybernetic shell. But I tell you, some of those individuals do experience regret from the loss of their human sensations. It is not exactly easy to replicate the sort of errors that human neurons provide in terms of raw skin feel. Oh, I thought the force of vacuum would just suck your lungs out. Nice to know you could survive 30 seconds-ish in space. Roughly. Meat is temporary, steel is forever. Praise the Omnissiah. The flesh is weak. Okay, let's read the briefing. While you were busy finishing up diverting our craft from USTA spaceports, it seems like the USTA had the opposite idea. A USTA warship, taking a long journey from Jupiter, has entered orbit around our asteroid Eros, a blatant provocation. Despite the fact that Eros is just a little asteroid in the belt and holds only a tiny population compared to most of the other belt rocks, we have valuable assets there. For one, we've been stockpiling weaponry, and slowly but surely building warships on almost all of our celestial bodies, belt or otherwise. In particular, on the Erosian shipyard, we've been building a prototype Silas ship, a medium-sized capital ship devoted towards carrying an enormous payload of nuclear weapons. If there is anything we learned from the Cataclysm, is that there exists no problem which can't be solved by judiciously applying nuclear ordnance. Naturally, we're not keen on letting that prototype warship fall into enemy hands, but the nearest warship we have, a corvette around Massilia, is months away. The only thing we can do is activate the mostly finished prototype and defend ourselves. Its propellant tanks are not filled, and it's only partially stocked with ammo and nuclear missiles, but it should do. The USDA's ship appears to be a nuclear-enabled missile schooner, captained by USF Captain Albert Gartner, who we have no records on. We have given him multiple warnings, but he has ignored all of our hails. We suspect that the USTA has received intel about what was being built on Eros, and that is exactly why they sent Captain Gartner there, so that we are not going to hesitate to eliminate him. Don't expect him to hesitate to engage either. For this mission, you should have no qualms about conserving Delta V, and instead burn your missiles in a trajectory directly at the enemy. The faster your missiles directly intercept the enemy, the less time the enemy has to react with point defense weapons. Just destroy Captain Gartner's ship, and ensure both our silo ship and our shipyard remain functioning. Our propaganda machine will deal with the political fallout of nuclear exchange. So do not be afraid to turn Captain Gartner into radioactive ash. Well, we finally get to use atomic weapons, wingmates. This is a red letter day. Ah, yes, and it is only red because it is glowing with atomic fire. It will be a pleasant 30 seconds indeed, with a vacuum exposure. How do you say? This is a very space chat game. Oh, I absolutely love the lore of this mission and how puzzling it is. I played this game until the mission where you had to make a months-long fleet transit to a different planetary system before the battle. I did not get that far. I actually failed at Vesta Overload, was it? I don't remember. Panic defense indeed. Nukes, 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 nukes. Big guns. There was one decade in Earth history where radium-infused glass was all the fashion. Ah, hello, Space Oni-san. Erica, how are you doing? Good to see you here. Alright. Why don't we begin our mission? Although, let's take a look at recommended reading. Hyperbolic trajectories. So this means that it's not a true orbit. It's an escape orbit. Nuclear chain reactions. Something to know about nuclear destruction. Some missiles, while detonating, can cause a chain reaction of nearby nuclear missiles. This is a counterintuitive consequence due to the way nuclear weapons operate. A nuclear missile that is destroyed without triggering a detonation will not achieve criticality, which means a chain reaction will not actually be useful. And too large of a missile fleet could actually be less effective than a smaller missile fleet, because the first handful of nuclear detonations can disarm subsequent missiles. On the other hand, small missile fleets may be completely destroyed by enemy anti-missile fire, so try to find a good balance on the right fleet size is a non-trivial matter. One way to get around such a limitation is to launch a large missile fleet, but to have them begin actively homing on their target at different times, as a way to stagger missile fleets. Conventional explosives, such as those used by flak missiles, have no such limitation. Oh, I'm glad that you're doing fine. I'm very, very pleased by that. I am doing great myself. I very much enjoyed this game, so it is fantastic that we are playing this. Although I think this may have to be the last mission, unfortunately. Do not eat off of the radium plates. Hot yoga, radium Atkinset, eat health fads have no end to them. Of course not, of course not. Pleasant tang for the food. So basically, the point of this is that an atomic weapon that is destroyed by another atomic weapon, or a conventional weapon for that matter, will not be able to detonate correctly. To actually collapse fissile materials to a critical state in a correct way is a non-trivial task. Many shaped explosives have to be detonated in a very precise, correctly timed manner, and otherwise you will have a deformed blob of atomic material which will splatter everywhere due to the explosives ripping it apart, but it will not reach the shape that it needs to go critical. You must clap those atoms just right indeed, Gorian Wasanar. What are the health fads in the far suns? What's one that has been bothering me a little bit? I suppose... spinal column transplantation? Using cybernetics instead of a proper spinal column. Some people claim it increases your tactile sensations once the biocircuitry fuses, but I don't think that's right. They're just making money off of spinal column replacements. Yes, the music is surprisingly good for a little indie game. It is very, very, very... I don't know how to describe it. It is very good. Oh my goodness, I wish to read all of these, but unfortunately they are simply too good. Alright, nuclear ordnance. Alright, let's take a look at factions, nothing new. Here is Eros. It orbits the sun. And let's take a look at the orbital period. What is the orbital period? Oh, only 186. Oh, no, the total population is around 3,000. So we will have a cargo station which we must protect, and we will have the prototype silo ship. So, this one will have 6 centimeters of carbon armor, and it'll have 5 millimeters of aluminum to back it up with, of course. I think I need Adderall to get anywhere in this game. You'd be surprised how good the tutorials are. I am actually kind of rushing through some of the readings, but this game is surprisingly accessible. I like this silo ship. Let's see, we have 4 decoy launchers, 4 Devastator nuclear missile launchers, and 6 Striker nuclear missile launchers, and 8 11mm railguns. So this is a fairly decent loadout, especially with all of the nuclear weapons. And the enemy ship is a missile schooner. Let's see, so it has a mass of about 2,000 tons compared to our silo ship's mass of 5.9, so almost 6. Kilotons. 6,000 kilotons. Or 6,000 tons. So let's take a look at this enemy craft that we are facing. I just have trouble reading. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of reading, so if you like reading science fiction novels, this is definitely a good place to be. If you play Kerbal Space Program a bit, this game may actually be a lot easier. From what you showed, it seems like that diving in with the tutorials and tanking will get people into it. Kerbal was a little more daunting from what I saw. Kerbal does have its own tutorials, it's just that I jumped into it. So the missile schooner has 6 or 8 60mm cannons, which are fairly piddling, and they're mostly meant for anti-missile defense, it appears. And it has far fewer missile launchers. Only 2 missile launchers are nuclear, and 2 of them are flak missiles, which are still incredibly damaging and good for interception, but we must be very careful when facing them. From what we showed, it seems like diving in with a... Oh, yes. This is where it gets really complicated, is the module editor. Oh my goodness, the module editor is insane. Okay, so the usual turreted cannon, which has an accurate range of up to about, let's say, 2 kilometers for the missiles, because the missiles have a very small cross-section. And we have the auto-fire railguns, which have a much better range. So we have better missile defenses than the enemy does. Although we are still likely to be annihilated if they launch an atomic strike at us. So we have a nuclear missile launcher with its round magazine. Let's see here. So it uses the Devastator nuclear missile. And this is a 6.8 megawatt launcher. I'm assuming that's megaton. Although we'll have to take a look at the actual... let's see here. 200 kilowatt nuclear missile launcher. So this is a smaller missile launcher with a magazine. And of course the flak launcher, which has a different type of missile. And here we have the Devastator nuclear missile with a Delta V. Oh, it has very bad Delta V. That is definitely a missile and not a drone. So we have to be very careful about how we launch this. Let's see here. We have a 2 megaton boosted fission nuke. And it has some graphite armor to protect it. The flak missile has a nitrocellulose flak bomb, and it has a much better Delta V. And our Striker nuclear missile has only a 2 kiloton nuclear missile, so it's far weaker by far. Megawatt is the power needed to run it. Oh, okay. It is very interesting to me that a nuclear missile launcher demands megawatts to run it. That is actually quite surprising to me, as it is just a storage rack. Although the megawatts may include the targeting systems and all of that. Clams Cove, thank you for stopping by for as long as you could. We will actually be ending sooner once we finish this particular mission. Alright, so why don't we begin the mission? Graphite armor, isn't that like really bad armor? Well, against the kinetic strike, it is not the best thing, but it is most certainly going to be sufficient to deal with laser weapons. So one of the things that lasers are very good at in this game is destroying missiles. And essentially, a laser weapon is not good against materials with a high... this is not the right term, but energy of vaporization. And carbon is definitely difficult to vaporize, because a laser simply dumps light energy onto the surface of something, and something like metal will have a lower vaporization energy than carbon. And this is because lasers are essentially pinpoint accurate, and they don't have issues hitting things the way that railguns do. And they can fire at a much longer range. So your priority is to defend against lasers when you want your missiles to reach the target. Okay, so we have another inclined orbital situation. So what we'll want to do is incline to the correct value, because we simply do not have enough Delta V. We may want to run the first turn to see what they do. Okay, so the enemy has launched missiles at us. 50 Striker nuclear missiles. Okay. So, that is no good. Okay, so the enemy is shooting nukes at us. So, wingmates, we may die, but I think, let's just for sake of argument, see what these nukes will do to us. Alright.
Incoming transmission.
So we need to launch decoys now. Let's launch at least 5 of them. Your decoy flares should be so long as the flares' emitted power is greater than your spacecraft's heat signatures, which they currently are. You should launch more when missiles get closer. Okay. So we are currently trying to throw these missiles off of us. while we are also going to get our armor visualizer on. And I can't give orders, but I'm going to make sure that my autoguns, my railguns are on auto fire, and they are. Luckily, we are broadside to the enemy missiles. All right, let's take a look. So let's unpause. We have launched our decoys, and hopefully that will distract some missiles from us. All right, enemy missiles are being distracted. We are firing at the ones that have enough power to reach us. Firing another set. Some missiles are still inbound. We've been nuked. All right, wingmates. This is a lesson. Nukes are not as effective as you think they are. So look at our armor. It is glowing red hot, but our ship has survived the engagement. Let's take a look at the damage that our weapons have sustained. This is because we are running graphite armor, so it has very high heat of vaporization. Now, think about the way a nuclear missile detonates in atmosphere. There is a massive shockwave. When you're in vacuum, that is not necessarily the case. So let's see, our railguns have taken significant damage, and our radiators are likely damaged too. But overall, we are actually intact, despite everything. So in essence, the nuke is only able to transfer thermal radiation, the intense heat of the atomic blast, to the target. So think of a nuke as a laser almost. And right now our ship is glowing red hot because it has been heated on the surface, with all of that laser power in essence. And this red hot is not enough to vaporize this particular armor, so let's check that everything is okay on our ship. At the very least, the cargo station took no damage. So there we go. Perfect. So the enemy has shot their shot. I believe that would be the most of them. So we will launch our own missiles because we have no Delta V. We are simply orbiting in the fleet that has the cargo station. So this is a pure missile strike system. So in space, a nuke is just a big plasma ball. In fact, it's a very small plasma ball because, well, the density of the plasma is very small and the mass of the plasma is very limited. So the primary form of damage is the incredible pulse of thermal radiation, or of essentially light photons striking the hull. And it's so much energy that the hull essentially vaporizes on the surface. And in fact, that vaporization may be so fast that the hull essentially buckles. There is so much force of the metal or whatever armor you have vaporizing that the very force of vaporization can crack armor and send a shockwave going through your craft. So that is the damage effect of atomic weapons. Now, of course, if you actually manage to land a surface level hit, that will do a lot more damage. If you have a nuke detonate close, it won't do nearly as much. But if you literally slap it on top of something and have it detonate then of course, there will be some very serious effects. But again, without the atmosphere to transfer a shockwave, it is still far weaker than it would be in Atmo. And yes, they're still very scary. There's still nothing to laugh about when it comes to nukes, especially Kasaba howitzers, which are shaped nuclear charges that essentially direct some of the energy forward of the nuke. And so they have range, relatively speaking. There is also a lot of radiation, and of course, that is produced. There we go. Yes, electromagnetic effects. 1 second, please. I need to check something really quick here. I do not wish to say something wrong, so please bear with me. So... 1 second, please, wingmates. I need to make sure I don't give you incorrect information here. It's been some time since I've dealt with this because of the shielding that I am dealing with. All right, let's see here. Okay, so looking at this, we will note that... Okay. I would have to get back to you on EM radiation effects from atomic warheads. I have completely disregarded that, as I have had to deal with that sort of threat very little. And I know that if the wishful thinking is hit with any atomic weapon up close, I will not have to worry about electromagnetic effects if there are any. But yes, Amphitheater X, I will have to get back to you on that. Okay, directed nuclear detonation indeed. Thank you for the link, Gorian Wasanar. Alright. Alright, so let's begin our atomic launches. So we will select our fleet, we'll focus on them, and we will launch... Let's see, how many... We have 81... We have 81 decoys. We have one disabled missile launcher from that particular volley. So how many missiles do we have? We have 12 total Devastators, and we have 100 of those. So what we will do, I think, is we will launch them in volleys of 40. 40... No, we'll launch them in volleys of 30, 30, 35, 35, 35, 33, 33, 33. So 20, 10, 10, and 1. There we go. So we'll go back, and we'll check how many missiles we have. Okay, we have 31 missiles. Let's focus back. Okay. Oh, focus back on our capital fleet. So that was 31 missiles. Let's launch another fleet of missiles. So Striker missile 20, 2, 2, and 1, 2, 3. And then we will go back. So we have another missile fleet. Yes, so we have another missile fleet. Let's see here. Ah, hello, Spooky. Welcome to the convoy. This is the last scenario that we're doing, but right now we are basically... Oh, wingmates, the armor has cooled down. Take a look at it. The Whipple armor, a lot of the armor has been very much destroyed by that atomic blast. Look at that. The hull is very scarred, although the radiators have managed to keep functioning. And these are titanium radiators, so they are rather durable in terms of what heat will do to them. If anything, oddly enough, radiators are surprisingly resistant to heat because radiators themselves are running very hot. Although, of course, that is a limited effect. Alright, let's see here. Let's go back to our fleets. Oh wait, no, we wanted to launch another volley of Strikers. So 1, 2... Actually, we launched the rest of it. Alright, going back. So now we have 3 fleets of missiles. Perfect. And we will launch them in 3 different volleys. And I will also launch the very last fleet of our missiles, our Devastators. And the Devastators, we will just launch all of them. There we go. Alright, there go the Devastators. I can't even see them properly because of the lighting. The sun is at a very obtuse angle, but they just look like rods. Okay, so... Looking at this... Let's grab our first and largest missile fleet. And we will separate the missile launches by 1 minute, I think. Good night. It's been a great stream, and see you all next time. Thank you, TK. Thank you for being with us here. Yes, these are all trajectories if the missiles just are yeeted off as they are currently going. Alright, so let's go with the trajectory. And I think what we will do... So, we're going to do a direct burn. So what I will do is I will set a frame of reference to be the missile schooner. So, I will simply direct the line of the missiles Delta V directly at the missile schooner. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Behave. There we go, and we need to adjust our vertical component. There we go. Perfect. And we can do an intersect, and my goodness, there's a lot of things happening here. We don't want to fly by, we don't want to match orbit, we want to simply attack. We can intercept, yes. Intercept the missile schooner. Okay, so that's 1 flight of missiles plotted, and we will do 2 of them 1 minute apart. So run turn. 50 flak missiles. Oh, they have fired flak missiles at us. They will likely use the flak missiles to protect their other missiles. So now we will launch our next volley of missiles. Shiloh Spirit, thank you for being with us for as long as you could. Maybe I'll see you another time, but thank you for checking this out. I hope you rest very well. Looks pretty awesome. Looking up real quick, it is a hard sci-fi strategy combat game set in the near future for the 21st century of Terra. Let's see here. Do we have the correct frame of reference? Yes, we do. Let's see here. We have selected the correct fleet, and let's do a trajectory change here. So let's radially burn. There we go. Let's tangentially burn. There we go. All right, fantastic. Good morning, Lewis. Welcome to the convoy. Good to see you here. We are currently playing some Children of a Dead Earth, which is a hard science fiction combat game with starships that are rather realistic in their, I suppose, technological. Oh, there we go. And we are getting a fairly good intercept there. Let's get an even better intercept. We can adjust our tangential component. There we go. So that is one of our best intercepts. Can fly by the fleet. Can match orbit. We'll do a flyby. Flyby the missile schooner. There we go. Perfect. So we will run that turn. So we have launched another set of missiles, and now we will have another set of missiles that we launch at the enemy frigate or enemy schooner. Let's see here. It's a puzzle engineering game with orbital mechanics strategy layer. Yes, this is mostly a puzzle about orbital mechanics. It's very clever. Imagine how scared they were when they saw their 50 nukes get wrecked. You know, they may have been expecting that, but they are in deep trouble because their combat strength, even without the nukes, is lower. Although they have maneuverability and I don't, so for all intents and purposes, they may have actually won to a certain extent. Because sitting still is to be a sitting duck. And here is the link to the game on Steam. Right, so I need to adjust the trajectory of this missile. So this is one of those interesting games where missiles, you don't simply click, you actually have to target them as if they were other orbital bodies or orbital objects. So as you can see right now, we are literally having to manually aim a fleet of missiles at the enemy. And we are doing that using these basic controls. All right, there we go. We're gonna do a out of plane alignment. All right, getting close. What's off with our alignment? I'm starting to lose my mind with this, but there are a lot of construction lines. There we go. We could do a flyby with the enemy. We can fly by the missile schooner. Oh no, we don't want an intercept. We want to fly by. Fly by the USTA missile schooner. We're just gonna ram into them at maximum speed. All right, let's run another turn. And oh, did I not complete the actual maneuver? That would be awful. All right, let's see if we can get these Devastator missiles going. What is that? I apologize, wingmates. I have a bit of a notification here. 1 second, please. Wingmates, I apologize about that. One of my spacer buds, who I will be rendezvousing with in orbit in approximately 1 hour, was contacting me. And so, as a result, I actually have my notifications linked to simulations of things called cellular telephones to pass along everything from the jump net. Because I am a bit of a Terraboo and I like that sort of vintage technology. Yes, lining up the trajectories can be very, very difficult. The missiles do have guidance. Miwa, you're heading out. I hope you get some good sleep. Thank you for being with us for as long as you could. Oh, no. It is not like that. 1 second, please, wingmates. Let me inform my spacer companion that I will be ready shortly. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Let's do our missile launches. Let's see here. Okay, Devastator missile fleet. Let's adjust our trajectory. Okay, so we are still using the correct relative motion. So let's look vertically and adjust our tangential component. Oh, what is going on here? Now we need a radial component. We primarily need a radial component. Okay, and we will adjust this component. Right, and now we will need to adjust the plane component to go down. There we go. We are still not aligned correctly. That's because we are off on our tangential component. This is all heavily influenced by gravity, so this is definitely non-trivial, wingmates. Luckily, the game does all of the calculations for us in this regard. But yes, these are essentially small kamikaze spaceships. You must understand that every single missile, especially those that are remotely autonomous, is a very expensive proposition. Oh wow, we in fact have a very good intercept here. So what we will want to do is we will want to fly by the missile schooner. There we go. Perfect. So let's run this minute-long turn. Okay, run another minute-long turn. There we go. Let's go with... No, 10 minutes is too fast. Alright, so our first volley is heading out. Boy, we made that really fast. I am actually very surprised that so many are enjoying the soundtrack. But I must admit, it's a very simple, but very fitting soundtrack for this. It has energy, it has calm moments. I'm very impressed, to be honest. Very impressed. Oh, our missiles are intercepting missiles. So, this is going to be very annoying. The enemy missiles may attempt to maneuver towards us, and our missiles are attempting to maneuver towards them. Actually, what I may do is I may actually... I'm gonna turn off the missiles, actually. I'm gonna have them scatter. Oh no! Our entire formation has been disabled. Well, the flak missiles are also probably not doing very good. Let's continue onward. I really hope we haven't lost the mission because we didn't anticipate the flak missiles. Alright, here we go, here we go. Gives me the same vibes as my playlist for space engineers. Ah, I see, you've made something also very space ambient. Have I heard of Hard Space Shipbreaker? I have seen it played, and I would like to actually try it at some point, but I have not had the time for it. But yes, Hard Space Shipbreaker is definitely on my, I suppose, list. Yes, the scatter order definitely, I think, did something. And they were already very low on Delta V, because those were the missiles that I burned the hardest. So, I think we may actually have a problem here. Hopefully the enemy flak missiles do not intercept me. Let's go with 10-minute turns. So if you see the simulation lagging, it's because we are using n-body calculations, which means that essentially the way the math is done will result in every single object influencing every single other object. And that is a lot of math. There is a reason it is difficult to do n-body calculations, especially by hand. It's because every single instant of time in your simulation has to have calculations for each of one of them. Right, so it appears that we may actually be intercepted by these flak missiles. Oh no, we actually intercepted the enemy first. So we will do a force terminal phase. We will force high acceleration towards the enemy ship so that we have less time in the interception phase. Now, wingmates, this effect looks very weird, and that is because this is what actual engine plumes look like when you are... Oh my goodness. So we have damaged the enemy missile schooner severely. Let's take a look at its armor diagram. It has taken significant damage and it is out of control. Its engine is disabled and its radiators are disabled, but we will utterly devastate it if we can. And now we are being attacked. We will now have to deploy our decoys against the enemy missiles, which are heat-seeking. And hopefully our railguns will begin firing. In fact, I will have them fire, ignore range. We need to start shooting immediately. Keep shooting, keep shooting. Hopefully we have enough railguns. Firing more decoys. Firing more decoys. Firing more decoys. Come on, come on, come on. Right, we have survived. Let's take a look at the armor damage. Alright, stop the range.
Incoming transmission.
Oh, mission successful, wingmates. Mission successful. Oh my goodness. Yes, Shipbreaker is very chill. So as you can see, wingmates, most of that was orbital plotting, and the engagement itself is a brief, hair-raising beep 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 kind of moment, where the incoming missile alert just terrifies you. Whew. So we have succeeded in disabling the enemy ship, and the prototype is not damaged in a very significant way. They missed because of the heat decoys that we were using. That was the only reason. Shooting incoming missiles and drones is the most asshole puckering part of the game. I think that is a very appropriate way of describing it. Hello, Grey Grace. Welcome to the convoy. And oh my goodness, Xlob. Xlob, I do not think I can pronounce your entire name. If you have a shorter way that you would like me to say it. Hello, welcome to the convoy. We have just accomplished one of our other missions here. Alright. Close call there, Admiral. Our shipyard workers are safe, and our prototype has survived. Good luck. So this prototype is safe now, and so is the RSF. These names! The soundtrack is so good in these names. The, what is this one? So we have the Silo ship, the Solar Tempest, and the RSF Ultraviolet Thunder. Xlob or Sutkra? Xlob is a little bit easier for me to remember, so thank you. Thank you for letting me know. The N-body calculation. Yes. We will not be doing N-body math when we decide to do our lecture on space. Ultraviolet combat. That is a good name. Ha! Ultraviolet radiation and ultraviolet thunder and ultraviolet combat. Oh my goodness. I see you have. Yes, they're not exactly fun. You would want to use a machine for them. They are not difficult in some sense, but they are calculation intensive. Once you have up to 3 or 4 bodies, even doing them with an extremely simplified model with low friction, they are hellish. Yes. You absolutely want machines to help you with that. Alright, we have done it, wingmates. We have taken some damage for this vessel, but luckily we're okay. And let's see, what is our record? Current 22 minutes. Oh, okay. It's because we launched a lot faster. Alright, so we'll exit to the main menu because I do have some things I must attend to, especially communicating with my spacer buddy. Alright, here we go. It's been a while since I've rendezvoused with someone like that. Alright, so here we go. So Vesta Overkill, for anyone familiar with this game, is where I failed. Thank you for the clip, Headless. Much appreciated. And Vesta Overkill has a lot of challenges. Aggressive enemies, custom fleets, and it's just fleet combat. One day I'll get over it, though. One day I'll get over it. Alright, there we go. Excellent. Let's go back to the station, wingmates. I was going to shamelessly shill my brother playing in a... how do you pronounce it? Something simulator. And something combat simulator. Not direct. My goodness, Gorian. What's the acronym stand for again? Digital? Digital Combat Sim. There we go. Thank you. DCS, Digital Combat Sim. F-14. Oh my goodness. The F-14 is a beautiful fighter. Absolutely beautiful. And I do love that it has a weapons officer position. For some reason, weapons officer's position are something I enjoy quite a bit. Conceptually. Oh, multi-crewing. That is excellent. I've always wanted to be part of a multi-crew sort of a combat flight sim game, but of course I have not had the time. I think one of the most fascinating things to me about any sort of vehicle crewing is having to coordinate with your crewmates. At least if you don't have some kind of neurological mindscape that allows you to manipulate the ship through feel alone, in essence. Right up there with train simulation games for extremely niche and challenging to get into, though. Yes, very much so, very much so. This is a big reason I haven't gotten into it. Much like I haven't gotten into Eve either. Because Eve is a spreadsheeter of a game. This game is surprisingly easy to get into, but difficult to master. Especially building custom ships. That has a lot of funky tricks to it. Okay, wingmates. But yes. One day I would like to ride in something like a Sherman or a T-34 tank, where other players are actually manning the other crew positions. Except for maybe the loader. The loader is a very boring position. Or yes, some kind of multi-crew position on a aircraft or a ship. A4 Skyhawk is a free mod and such a blast to learn to fly. What about the Skyhawk? Is your particularly is good in your opinion? Is it the flight model? Is it a little bit more forgiving? I just prefer genre fiction myself. What do you mean by that, Spooky? Genre fiction. Milsims tend to try multi-crew, but they are sometimes not that great of games. Yes, it's a sim. Sims are sims, games are games, and sometimes the two do not cross. This is a game and a sim, and it happens to cross both aspects. Very forgiving and relatively simple. That is what I have heard about the actual performance in the 20th century about the A4 Skyhawk. So it is good to see it that way. Il2 Sturmovik is doing just that. I think it's just called Tank Crew. Oh, I have not tried that yet, actually. No multi-minute laser gyros to calibrate. Yes, calibration. The bane of anyone working with technology. I got through the levels on the surface of giants by accidentally colliding with the station that was on target. On opposite orbits, the velocity was humongous. So you ended up using your own vessel as a missile. Impressive, Salvatore. Very impressive. I've never actually collided in this game. Let's see. Genre fiction or popular fiction are things like fantasy, science fiction, crime dramas, horror. Oh, okay, I see. Okay. So it's anything with a particular bent to it. So you enjoy fiction in general, I suppose, but not in a narration sense, with a particular theming to it. I guess the Kinect version of Steel Battalion kind of counts as a crew simulator. I have not heard of the Kinect version of it specifically. Old publishing for pop culture fiction. I see. Thank you for the explanation, Spooky. I actually was not fully aware of the distinctions there. I simply called it fiction. How about that SpaceX launch? I have not seen footage of it actually, so I will have to catch up on that. Feel free to throw down a link if you have a particularly good launch video for it that you have to suggest. A night launch. Oh, I see. All right, wingmates. Why don't we prepare ourselves for a raid? But in the meantime, let me tell you that tomorrow I will be. 1 second, please. Here. I will actually be attending an all-day or joining for part of one of Erica Nuatori's apologies, hard to phrase. Year anniversary of streaming celebration. So let me link you her Twitter. There we go. And I will be on at 7:30 doing Wordwolf with I believe 3 other guests, if I recall correctly. There we go. And let me also get the Niwatori channel. It's a shared channel, so let me copy that link there. Copy link location. It's a shared channel, so it may not be named exact. Oh my goodness, what? Twitter links. Oh well. Let me actually get that proper Get that proper link for you, wingmates. That is... Oh, it's having... 1 second, please. Erica, if you have your channel in your copy paste, feel free to dump it right now if I am too slow right now. Let's see here. Niwa Tori TV. Niwa Tori TV. There we go. Always hard to get the URL at times. There we go. So I'll be doing that at 7:30, and I think if my guest time ends before you know it's too very late in the night, I will probably be doing a gorilla. And Erica, I don't know how long it will go, but I do usually try to stream on Saturdays, so I may do a short stream sometime after. But yes. All right, there we go. Oh, no worries, Ultraviolet, no problem. Anyone can come in at any time that they wish. It's it is how it goes. But yes, there will be a little bit of a collab there. Oh, Hartley, you're heading out. I'm heading out myself. We're heading out ourselves soon. Thank you for being with us. When are we finishing the Ashoka, lol? I could finish the Ashoka. I could do that actually. I could attempt that mission again. And whether or not I succeeded, I could actually complete the Ashoka art. Oh, yes. Yes, it is going to be a 12-hour stream, so I will probably be catching it earlier in the day, and then I will, you know, head off because I don't think I can stick around for a full 12 hours. As much as I love any VTuber, 12 hours is a long time to dedicate to watching, even if I'll be playing for a good fraction of it. You're heading out, Apricot. Sandnara. I'm sorry, that consonant combination is difficult. Thank you for being with us. Doing a gorilla. Yeah, it's a simulated primate. Okay, so who is currently active right now? Let's see, not too many folks. Juanita Tula, Dippy is online playing Phantasy Star. I have not raided him before because this is the first time his channel has been active, so I may raid him. Does anyone else have any raid suggestions? Tell me more about this collab soon. Let's see here. Dippy! Alright, we'll probably be raiding Dippy, but as always, I do offer suggestions, of course. Or, I am open to suggestions because that is how the world works. You don't necessarily meet people by just, you know, closing your ears and closing your eyes. Yeah, work on something, probably only catch the tail end. Oh, no worries, Hartley, no worries. Alright, let's see here. Okay, let's raid Dippy. Juanita Tula. Let's see if he's actually still streaming. Yes, he is. Phantasy Star. Perfect. Right, well, anyone who wishes to raid, please feel free to do so. Anyone who wishes to head out and have a good sleep, or has other things to do, or other streamers to watch, because everybody has different tastes, and I am more than willing to accommodate that. I know that I am not everyone's taste myself. So, with that in mind, let's do a raid. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. I am looking forward to the collaboration, and Erica, I will get you those avatars. Let me clean them up a little bit first. Oh my goodness, is the audio on or something? Yes, it is. Okay, that was accidentally some audio on. But I'm looking forward to that, and I might do a bit of a gorilla where we might do some art or some more salty gaming. All right, everybody. Why? I posted the link. Let me actually post the command. Raid. There we go. Raid. Okay, raid is beginning. Let me give you guys the raid message. Here we go. Feel free to modify the raid message as you see fit. Oh, Corpse, you were lurking. Thank you for coming by. Much appreciated. And everyone, thank you so much. All right. Wingmates, if anyone is joining us for the first time, if you like, I suppose, games set in space, if you like Homeworld, MechWarrior, Battletech, robots, and I suppose just madness in general on my part, feel free to follow along, and I will do my best to provide further such content. All right, everybody. I want you to keep your propellant tanks topped off, make sure that your jump calculations are correct, and that you always, and always, fly safe. Alright, everybody. I will see you another time. Let's raid Dippy and let's be polite and friendly. Raiding in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Commencing raid.